Hello. Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making the Calgary election debate night for those individuals running for the office of the mayor of Calgary. We're going to be starting in about 7 minutes because we're just waiting for a few, of the candidates stuck in traffic. So we have a majority of them. So in about 7 minutes, we're going to start. We apologize for this delay. Thank you very much for your understanding. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your patience and welcome to Calgary Mayoral Election Debate program for 2025, powered by Ethnic Festival Association. We thank you for taking the time to be here tonight, and we're going to be kicking off this debate tonight. Before we start, I would like to invite a very special person to me who it's like a father and also a role model in the society, who has been very, very gracious to make me a member of Chika Nation by giving me a name. My indigenous name is Sam, and my African name is Lanre Ajayi. I was blessed by an indigenous elder who bestowed this honor on me. And tonight we're going to set up this program by welcoming Elder Treffy Deerfoot to come and welcome us with a prayer for this event. A round of applause for Elder Treffy.
Okay, git khana eksamatsim buan kukui. Nistwana ko kasekutu yung makano just a bit of Phoenix. Be doch bikix. He needs the books. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Treffy Deerfoot. I come by way of the Blackfoot-speaking people. The homeland of my people was just a few blocks to the east here, where the convolute is. My grandfather Deerfoot was buried right where the 9th Avenue Road goes through. They excavated his body and they brought it to Nose Hill, so that's where he rests now. So I've had a lot of activity, not only from my ancestrals, but into more. I had some of my upbringing. I played football and sports in this city. I used to own a house here, but I moved to Lethbridge to take care of my mother, who for the last 8 years of her life, I took care of her. When everybody was saying, no, put her in a home, I wanted to. She didn't kick me out when I was a little baby, so definitely was not going to put her in a home. And it was the best thing I ever did in my life, to have my mom go back into being a little girl and blessing me every day with her smile and her laughter. Now, on a more serious note, we're here to question and look into the inner being of people as they run for a very important office that represents all of us here in this room. And I've had a chance to talk to some of my leaders in my community and told them, guess what I get to do? He says, Treff, you always get to do these wonderful things, eh? And it gives me an honor to welcome everyone here, first off. And then from the chiefs of this territory, the Blackfoot Confederacy, we're having a big meeting in Lethbridge for the next 3 days, starting tomorrow. And again, we're debating the same things that we're debating here. We're debating the water. We're debating the land. We're debating the elders, who are the information that we need here. And we're holding up those little children, our youth, that are going to be our future leaders. So I come by way of just only being a messenger. I have marks on my body from the Sundance and participating. I'm the leader of the straight up headdresses. I have a beaver bundle. So I've gone deep down into my culture to bring something good to everybody. I work with the Ethnic Association and welcome new immigrants. I'm part of the Art Council, adjudicating art grants. I work with the city and engineering department. They're wondering why the deer and the other animals are not coming back to the banks of the river. Well, in our culture, we know that the beavers were the ones that would dam up, because we altered the ecosystem by bringing boulders from the mountains. We've altered it. And it takes 15 to 25 years before things seep into those big boulders along the banks of the river. And it's then the beavers, they dam up the river, and then they flood the area, and the vegetation comes back. And the next thing is the animals come back. I think we're a little too far for that. What we can hope for the best is further upstream, the headwaters up there. We can make change there. That's our life, that's our water source, if we all come from water. So I'm just going to say a blessing in my language. Join me in any way you can in your heart, that we bless these people as they come forward and they share the goodness of their heart. and for the future, for the good things, young and old, the newcomers, and the people that call this place home. Ayo sepatu piwa kuhtu kita naksikoi. Ako kana suka pinitsi puuksinan kuukoi. Oke amksa ka kuupiiksi oke. Agistut simmia kana suka sepatu pi. O kaksuksi puatumia usushka noa naksikoi. O kakkiapim skatu pinan kan naksikoi. Istkana suka sepatu pi. O okmateka enskatsmatun takkaam sapista miitskine. Inske awatsumska, inske kakkuiks, o se kanatsumta, moutukiks, o nitakkaam itskineeks. Nohpakanääksest tuota ja kanääsukaa piissä päätäpy. Me sami pääri kiipiä pustoi, naapioisin, hai hai.
Round of applause for Eda Treffy Deerfoot for that long repeat. Tonight we are honored to have all the 6 confirmed mayoral candidates that we promoted on our platform here tonight with us, and I just want them to come in now. We have a number on the table, and they have all selected the number of how they're going to be seated. So we have 6 from here, and then on each numbers. Yeah, this is 6. Yeah. Okay. Round of applause for our. Thank you very much. I will quickly just briefly introduce our candidates. To my far right, we have Mayor Gondek, Mayor of the City of Calgary. We have Honorable Sonia Sharp, and we have Chika Gustafson. We have Jeremy Farkas. We have Brent Thyssen, and then we have Jeff Davidson. A round of applause for all of them, please. Now, in the course of this debate, if you have any question or if you've not been able to submit your questions online, you can scan the QR code that will be on the screen, and then we'll get the question, and then we'll ask the candidates. And also, if you're joining us online, you can send your question as well. We'll do our best to capture as much as possible questions. I'll hand over to, and also to my right, the moderators. I've got JS from National Access Arts Center. A round of applause for him, please. And I've got Chika Danis, Dr. Chika Danis from WTAL Canada. Thank you very much for joining us. And to my far left, I've got 2 members of our board of directors, the timekeeper, and then the questions that will be analyzed to be given to the moderators. I've got Bumi Adebayo. A round of applause for him. And Christy Eze. Thank you very much. So I hand over to JS to give us the debate rules, timekeeping, and audience guidelines. Thank you, JS.
Can everybody hear me okay? All right, I'm just going to yell this out. So there's a few segments for the debate. The first one is where the moderators will ask the candidates the questions. This session will take approximately 80 minutes, and it will go through a range of topics. First one being 60 minutes. Affordable housing and equitable urban development, the next one being economic opportunities for underrepresented groups. The next one being strengthening multicultural inclusion and anti-racism initiatives. And the last one being public transit and infrastructure in growing communities. Each candidate, when asked the question by the moderator, each candidate will get 90 seconds for an initial response. And following that initial response from the candidates, there are opportunities for rebuttals and crosstalk. Rebuttals will be capped at 45 seconds, and crosstalk will be somehow managed by the moderators. So please behave and make our jobs easy. And so with that, are we diving right into our first session?
Over to I think that's Dr. Chika Daniels.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Our first segment tonight is on blanket rezoning with Calgary's current climate. And we'll start with Mayor Gondek. The question is on blanket rezoning, and it speaks to citywide trust, equity, and growth strategy. The context is this. So Calgary's decision to implement blanket rezoning to allow greater housing density citywide has been one of the most divisive policies in recent years. Over 60% of public feedback opposed the move, citing concerns about infrastructure, neighborhood character, and property values. Yet, supporters argue it's a necessary step to address the housing crisis and create more equitable opportunities across the city. So here's the question, Mayor. If elected mayor again, how would you approach citywide rezoning? Would you maintain, modify, or repeal the policy? And what concrete steps would you take to rebuild public trust while addressing the urgent demand for housing?
How about now? Good? Okay. So we listened to close to 700 Calgarians come and speak to us about their feelings on housing. And there were a lot of people who had legitimate concerns and a lot of people who expressed their fears. And it was important to listen to people. When you are bringing about change in someone's community, especially next door or across the street, people have legitimate concerns. And in listening to everyone, we were able to implement many amendments that allowed people to have greater say during development permit stage, which is when you actually find out what people are proposing to build. So it was an important exercise to listen to Calgarians. And I have to say, there's a lot of folks that couldn't come out to the public hearing because they were working, because they were looking after kids. So it's important to understand that the volume of people doesn't necessarily represent the people that couldn't be there. The greatest thing we can do is make sure that there is enough mix of housing in every neighborhood so that people, as they age, don't have to leave the community that they love and they've spent so much time in if they have to downsize. And I've heard from a lot of people that their adult children are wanting to move back to Calgary and cannot buy into the neighborhoods they grew up in. So I want to make sure that they've got those opportunities, because if we have a good mix of housing and we have more housing, it brings down pricing and it allows more people to live in neighborhoods that they have loved for a long time. When it comes to what we do next, I will make sure that we're listening to the voices of the Calgarians and understanding the experiences they've had. If we need to modify anything, I'm certainly open to that. We needed to try this, and we'll see where we go from here.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Sharp?
Is this working? Great. So I have been very clear on my position around blanket rezoning from the very start. I did not think this was going to work, and blanket rezoning actually has been a failure, and it has not been providing any affordable housing stock to the market. Let's be clear, new housing growth usually happens in new communities. We can speed up the permit process by reducing the number of days permits are at City Hall, and that is something I have pledged. It also will bring people back to public hearing, and that was one of the biggest issues with blanket rezoning, is that we remove the people from the process, calling them the issue. They are not the issue. The bureaucratic system internally is the issue. And so I know that there is still some issues around if it's providing affordable housing or it's not. It depends on what you mean by affordable housing. When you look at what's being torn down, that was affordable to some new families. It was also affordable to multicultural groups and families that live together. When you're tearing down some of those homes and building new ones, the cost of those homes are actually more money than what was there originally. And that just comes to understanding what it costs to build new homes within our city right now. And if you look at communities like Stonegate that is building exponentially, that is where you see more of the small A affordable housing for new families and newcomers to Canada and newcomers to Calgary as well. So I will be repealing it and look for better processes to build houses.
Thank you, Councillor Yeager.
Thank you. And good evening to everyone. My name is Jager Gustafson, and you can find more about what we're doing on mayorgus.ca, and we can learn to vote together. One of the challenges that's happening right now is seniors can't afford to live in our city. They want to live in the places they purchase. They purchase these places so that a home could be somewhere you could grow old in. And being ripped from your home is traumatic. Imagine your parents, imagine your grandparents not able to take care of themselves anymore. Sometimes as we age, we experience cognitive decline. This occurs for everybody. That means our memories are not as sharp. We can't remember where we put things. And they get put into environments where they can't take care of themselves anymore. For my vision for Calgary as we continue to lead Calgary is around individual liberty and most importantly about the family. It's our families that continue to take care of us. When it comes to the housing, people are really worried. They tell me, they said, Jagger, we are worried about the parking. Okay, where's everybody gonna park? This is very important for everybody. And secondly, they're worried that their property values will decrease. But I can tell you that the price, if we have lower cost housing, it doesn't necessarily mean lower quality. People are deciding to invest in other things other than just their house. We saw our home as the biggest asset, but really our biggest asset looking forward is each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagger. Jeremy?
Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you all of you as Calgarians for being so engaged to join us tonight. Housing is one of the issues where I think the City Council and Mayor have really been stuck. Right now, we're seeing two extremes, really. On the one hand, you have proponents who say, for us to be able to build, we need to ignore and lock out the community. And on the other hand, there's folks who suggest for us to be able to listen to the community, that means that we don't build anything anywhere. The truth is, we need a new path forward on housing. Our plan, as put forward on ourpathforward.ca, starts with a repeal of the blanket rezoning and a replacement with a community-informed approach. Right now, we're seeing blanket rezoning in practice has been a lot of like what we're seeing in Glamorgan, where I live today, as well as Dover, the street I grew up in. About $600,000 bungalows being torn down, replaced with about 4 $750,000 luxury condos. So this hasn't been affordable in practice. So our replacement plan suggests building the needed housing closer to services, infrastructure, but also at a speed and a quantity and a price point that Calgarians actually need. We need to reinforce and recognize that Calgarians are in a housing crisis. The average income can no longer afford the average rent. And that's why, critically, we need a new path forward that listens to Calgarians, but also builds the needed housing where supported with services and infrastructure at the price point that Calgarians can actually afford.
Thank you, Jeremy. Brian?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me now? I'm getting no's from
It's good,
Yes?
Brian.
Okay, great. I'm going to go. I'm going to do the hard work of fixing zoning. And what that means is the Calgary Party started with a housing toolkit. And we actually came up with a comprehensive plan to address the needs of housing for the 100,000 people that are coming to Calgary every year. And this city council really drove us into a ditch. They did a first set of consultations where one side of council dismissed all the people who showed up. And by the way, at that first set, I sat through those hearings. The majority of people were in favor of open zoning, and the Community First group on council was dismissive of them. And then they had a second set of hearings where the majority were against open zoning, and the other side of council was dismissive of them. I think we should stop being dismissive of Calgarians and listen to their concerns on housing. And that's what we've done. So we've proposed a streamlined process for addressing housing needs, a 3331 policy for expedited housing approvals. But I can tell you, this is not an issue that needs to divide us. This is an imminently solvable issue. If we listen to Calgarians, we can look at how we preserve the 95% of approvals that were being approved. That's a 6-month delay. And a 6-month delay in the previous process is about $50,000 per home. So we need to preserve that for the 95% of approvals that we're going through and address people's concerns to preserve their neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Jeff?
Well, thank you. And thank you very much for hosting tonight. This is great. It's great to see everybody here. Look, I think Calgary is the greatest city on earth. And I think the best thing about Calgary is the diversity of our communities. And there's absolutely no way I want all of our communities to look the same, which is why I would repeal the blanket rezoning. You know, Calgary's the place of opportunity. It's the place where people around the globe are choosing to move. We're not keeping up with growth. We're not keeping up with that demand. And building 4 units at a time, which, by the way, forces neighbors to fight over things like parking, is not ideal for this city. So I'm looking at more building new communities within existing communities, leveraging transit-oriented development so that we can actually build affordability connected to transit and promote people getting around our city. I think this is a policy that we've had in Calgary for 30 years, and to date, I think we've only seen 3 sites being built. And so if we look back and say to ourselves, well, we have an environmental problem, we have a housing problem, we have an affordability problem, we have a transit problem, let's connect the dots and actually build where the density makes sense, and that is along a lot of our transit corridors. But also looking at how do we build more in areas of existing communities. When I was a city councillor, we put 3 new communities in within existing communities on the west side. So West District, Springbank Hill, and Trinity's project at Winsport, which will add about 55,000 residents to the west side. That's how you build density. That's how you build community, and that's how you encourage people to come together. Pitting neighbors against one another over parking concerns is not my idea of how Calgary should move forward.
Thank you, Jeff. Councillor Sharp, you mentioned speaking to affordable housing and defining that. So could you tell us what you think it is, or what your idea of it is?
Yeah, so if we're going to talk a little bit about affordable housing and working with the province and working with our partners, the city of Calgary has the land. So let's give the partners and the government of Alberta the land to build the housing. And so when we talk about, you know, low income housing, that is affordable housing. When we talk about living affordably in some of our neighborhoods in Calgary, it's not tearing a house down that maybe is valued at $750,000 that a family of 4 is living in and paying rent at $2,000 a month because, you know, it's a little bit older, and then tearing that down and building 8 units at $850,000 a year or for a price. People can't afford that. And that's what I'm seeing in some of the communities. Like, I'll give an example, like Bowness. And they have seen such an influx of teardowns and new builds where people are moving out of the community. One of my opponents mentioned, you know, families and seniors. My own parents had to live with me because they were being priced out of neighborhoods and secondary suites and things like that. And so blanket rezoning isn't solving the affordable housing crisis. It was an ideological thing that came to council and pushed, unfortunately. What we really need to do is look at our practices within and cut that down and give the partners and the government of Alberta the land to build the affordable housing we need for certain populations. So that was the differentiation between the two.
Thank you, Councillor. Brian, you were speaking to expediting housing approvals. What do you want to do differently than what happens now in the city?
Well, first of all, we have to preserve the zoning approvals for the 95% that were approved as of right. As I said, we proposed a 3-3-3-1 policy, so 3 days for housing renovations, 3 weeks for housing approvals, 3 months for mid-market, and 1 year approval timeline for complex programs, all within zoning. So we have to speed that process up. We have to put housing as a #1 priority in all of our decisions at City Hall. And when we talk about affordability, we're talking about affordability across the spectrum, and I really feel that we sometimes confuse that. We need social housing at the low end of the market to solve some of our issues with public safety. But we also need to increase affordability across the spectrum so that seniors can age in place, like my father-in-law, who just moved out of his house after 60 years in Lake Bonavista and can be in the neighborhood so he can see his neighbors. We need student housing, rental properties, right? So we're talking about building across the market. We need to review the complex regulations that have been added over 20, 30 years. You know, when Councillor Farkas voted against secondary suites, for example, we spent 8 years on a debate, and Councillor Farkas was convinced that it would ruin Calgary, and so we delayed that. Now everyone wants a secondary suite. We can have a reasonable debate about things like zoning and improve affordability across the spectrum and build housing for the entire market.
Thank you, Brian. Mayor Gondek, being the current mayor of Calgary and already knowing what obtains with approvals, housing approvals, building approvals, what do you think with Brian Thiesen's thoughts on how you can expedite the process?
I would like to say that everyone here is offering some great ideas. Ideas are nice, but actions are better. We are leading the entire nation in housing starts, and we are 55% of the housing starts in this province, and that's because of the strength of the housing strategy that we approved. We are offering Indigenous-led housing for the first time in this city. We had elders tell us today how important that is for Indigenous communities. We have offered up an incentive for secondary suites so people can build those out quicker and people can get into that type of housing as quickly as possible. We are building modular. Our Attainable Homes project, that's a wholly owned subsidiary, has created a modular project that will be done in about 8 weeks, and it will house people with dignity that quickly. It is such a good project. The Prime Minister has actually recognized it as being the exemplar for how we do housing moving forward. Calgary has got it right. We are taking a lot of really great initiative. And our city-owned land, we are already selling it at below market rates to affordable housing providers who are putting up units for families who right now are struggling to get by, either sleeping on someone's couch or living out of their cars. We have taken action as a council, and it shows. We have been contacted by the ministers of housing to find out how we did it. Our downtown conversion program is another shining example in North America about how we've created 1,500 new homes for people in this city because we believed we could do it.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll open the floor up to rebuttals if there are any, or that I can ask other questions if that's fine.
Well, I think...
I'm sorry, Brian. Chika?
Test, okay. One of the things, I've talked to the people at Calgary Housing. If you know me, for some reason, I just know at least a few people in every department at the city. And I can tell you, and other people have worked there, it can be a toxic work environment. And I speak for these people. You know, the work-life balance, in preparation for this debate, I wanted to talk to people and say, what is really important to Calgarians? And it's the future of what work looks like. And I can tell you at Calgary Housing right That's okay. No, don't worry. It's just, oh, thank you. So they don't want you to hear this. Clearly, I'm kidding. It's a conspiracy. No, but Calgary Housing, okay, clearly we need to work on reducing the red tape. Okay, the finances are looking okay, but we're going to need significant investment quite quickly for our aging inventory. But one of the things is the legal foundations that we've got to make sure that people have the permission. And that's what we're looking at, the subsidiaries. One of my plans is to bring together all of our subsidiaries and really bring these geniuses that are working there. I know these people. These are geniuses. We're going to bring them together in Calgary City Centre University. And we're going to help understand how to run all of our subsidiaries through the best minds in Calgary to bring them together, because they need to work together and they can work together. And these are our businesses that we own in Calgary. But I've listened to the people in there. They're doing good work. And Mayor Gondek has been promoting what they've been doing, which is good. We need to promote more.
Thank you, Chika. Brian, please can I have your thoughts?
I was just going to say the Attainable Homes Calgary example is a really interesting example. There's actually 2 projects on the west side of downtown as you exit it. The first one was a 6-story, and Attainable Homes Calgary ran into the city bureaucracy, and city transportation wanted to add 4 inches to the sidewalk, plenty of delays, and by the time city administration was done with the project, they'd added $1 million to an affordable housing project that is 100% funded by the city and whose mission is to build affordable homes. So that's why we're talking about moving at the speed of business, reviewing the city approval process and making sure that they understand that they're adding real cost to attainable home projects. The other one that is cited as a success story, Attainable Homes Calgary had to completely build it within the parameters of the building permit so that there was no room for city administration to make any changes, and so that they had to approve it. And I would say that Attainable Homes Calgary would tell you that they succeeded despite the city and without involvement from the city. And I don't think that it is fair to cite it as an example of a success story when institutions like Attainable Homes Calgary are struggling every day with the bureaucracy that we are trying to streamline so that they can build affordable housing.
Thank you, Brian. Jeremy?
Thank you. Oops. Thank you. I was just going to say, When I was going through university for several years, I had the misfortune of having to live above and in a illegal secondary suite. For many, many years, I lived with the uncertainty of not knowing whether if I reported unsafe conditions as a renter, whether or not I would the next day just be kicked out onto the street. That's an uncertainty that way too many renters and way too many Calgarians live with today. And that's why in my 4 years as a city councilor, I leaned in, voting for ways that we can improve the safety of our secondary suites, serving for 4 years as a director on the Calgary Housing Company. And that's why my housing policy is called Restoring Certainty, to be able to bring certainty to the table for both homeowners, but renters, nonprofits, builders, and city administration, so that we can get back to the work of actually building housing that's affordable in the right places.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jeff, do you have any comments, or can we move to the next question? Okay, awesome, thank you. So next question is on the decline of non-market rental stock. We'll start with, on this end, so we'll start with Jeff this time around. So this question is on the decline of non-market rental stock and speaks to affordability and housing security. So in terms of context, since 2021, Calgary has lost over 1,500 non-market rental units, largely due to aging infrastructure and insufficient maintenance funding. So with demand for affordable housing at record levels, this puts pressure, significant pressure, on low-income residents, seniors, and vulnerable populations. So the question is this, Jeff. How will you work with other levels of government and local partners to stop the erosion of non-market housing, and how would you restore or expand affordable rental units with a realistic goal under your leadership?
I think the big challenge is all in policy. I mean, right now, I think when it takes 8 years to put a building up in Calgary, that's a big challenge. And so when we think about the housing stock that is being depleted, when we think about affordability, these are self-inflicted problems. The city has to move at the pace of business, and we have to provide an environment that's secure and certain for investors to come. And when and where an investor wants to put up a building, often with 15% off-market housing built into it, it's taking too long to get the product to the market. And so then they go somewhere else and they build, and then we get further behind. And so as the city has fallen behind on maintenance for some of its own housing corporations that they have, we're not keeping up there. It's this perpetual problem of falling behind. We have to get things done faster as a city. And when it comes to building, we need to do what we say we're going to do, which is why we can't wait 8 years for the average building to go up in our city. We have to be able to move quickly and efficiently. Nobody's saying that we should skirt the rules, but what we are saying is maybe it's better to audit projects rather than hold them up, because what we should be doing is saying yes first and then figuring out how we do these projects affordably, safely, and on time.
Thanks, Jeff. Brian?
Yeah, I think it's a good, I'm glad you raised it, because one of the things we don't talk about on the zoning piece is the loss of significant hundreds of millions of dollars of federal funds by repealing open zoning. So that has a direct impact on low income or non-market rental housing. So that was a big part of the discussion at the time, and it seems to have been lost since that time, is talking about keeping that funding in place and attracting more federal and provincial money to invest. We also need federal and provincial lands in addition to municipal lands to be dedicated for non-market rental units. And again, the process that we are proposing dramatically reduces the timelines, which directly gets added to the cost of housing. Right? So when we talk about a streamlined regulatory process, when we talk about going through the city's process that has become inanely complex and simplifying it so house builders can build, we are talking about moving at the speed of business. We are talking about not adding $50,000 to the cost of a rental property, which drives up rent, right? And so you have to think outside of the box, and you have to make sure that you are streamlining the process so we can build rental housing, which is a big part of the solution on the affordable housing or social housing piece.
Thank you, Brian. Jeremy, as you answer your question, would you also kind of spotlight whether you think currently there's any hindrances or obstructions brought by the provincial or the federal levels with your plan for realistic supply of housing, non-market housing?
Yeah, I think the introduction of party politics municipally is a huge hindrance to actually having a mayor and council that can work for Calgarians. We see down east in Ottawa, down south of the border, that the partisan politics leads people to have to vote against good ideas and vote for bad ideas because of that blind loyalty to party politics. So it's really clear that Calgarians want a mayor who can work together with both a Liberal Prime Minister and a Conservative Premier in order to be able to get things done. And that's really the point. As a mayor, you have to be able to pull together, bring together a team of City Council to be able to advocate. And the issue here is that we've had a mayor and council that unfortunately have not advocated for us on the priority of Calgarians, especially when it comes to housing. The number one stated goal and aim of this mayor and council hasn't been housing. It hasn't been flood mitigation. It hasn't been even the Green Line LRT system. It hasn't been the low-income transit pass. It was a new event center for downtown Calgary. We still need a new rink, but if only Silvera, if only Calgary Housing Company, if all of these nonprofits got the same speed and attention as the Flames owners did, then we could actually start to build some housing in the city. So the issue is we need to ensure that our mayor and council remain independent so that they can actually work on the team of Calgarians rather than the far left or the far right.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jager?
Thank you. And I love a good party. All the parties love me. What I can say, though, it's fair. It is good, right? Yeah. Everybody loves me.
I'll give you credit for that.
Thank you. Dan the man loves me, too. So the thing is good governance, right? That's our job to provide to you for our provincial government so we don't get kicked out, because that can happen now. So good governance starts with representing the residents. And it's very clear to me we need less taxes. Who here enjoys paying taxes? The door's just over there. So we must have less taxes and good quality services. We have 63 service lines we provide at the city. Can anybody name more than 20? If you can, there's candy at the back. The thing is we need less taxes, and that's why when we have our mayor, whether you vote for Mayor Gondek or Mayor Gus, the thing is we're going to continue to have great quality services in Calgary. It's very, very important to me because these are people's jobs. These people are giving their lives. My grandfather gave their lives to this city. There used to be a culture of volunteerism at City Hall that used to walk every day and say, hey, I'm done my shift. Now I'm going to go to the zoo and help the animals. We can have this once again. And my goals for the tax, I have reached out to 2041 because it is such a difficult thing to do to lower the tax. And we need lower taxes. If you look at on the business side, businesses can't afford to pay the property tax. The small businesses can't. They just can't. The big commercial, they're just laughing at you. But the small guy is who pays the tax, and we all pay the tax. We've got to have lower taxes and better quality services. We can do it, and that's something I believe.
Thank you, Jager. Councillor Sharp?
Yeah, so I'm just going to go back to some of the questions you had asked about the second half here about, our role in all of this. So we have, I'm going to go back to the statement, is we have the land. The City of Calgary is a regulatory body. We control the regulations to get shovels in the ground. So we cannot control what, the province wants to do with affordable housing or the government of Canada. And so to go back to someone's comment about strings attached, now there is a lot of debate if strings were attached to rezoning or not. But we did pass some great initiatives to provide housing, as Mayor Gondek had mentioned about Indigenous housing. We did some great work. Now, we can shave off time for permits. You can take 120 days off the permit process and get shovels in the ground faster. We've removed members of council from Calgary Planning Commission so that there's less red tape. There's opportunity to make sure our affordable housing applications don't go to that. So I think that there needs to be an understanding of roles and responsibilities here. We have the land and we're a regulatory body, which means we control the permits for builders to do what they need to do. The city does not build the housing. And I think that's where everyone needs to understand that this is the role of municipal politics. And if there's an opportunity to rebuttal, I would like to do that after as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Gondek will have the last word in this question round, and then there will be a chance for rebuttal. Thanks, Mayor.
One of the most important things that I need to do as the mayor is be agnostic to who's in power, whether it's provincially or federally. I'm happy to work with anybody, but ultimately I represent Calgarians. And that's why getting a deal with the federal government to have $228 million for housing was a pretty big accomplishment. Not to mention they followed up giving us another $28 million because of how well we had delivered on housing. So let's remember, if you are agnostic to the politics and the ideologies, you can actually strike good partnerships. When it comes to the provincial government, I can tell you, when the low-income transit pass was going to be cut by the department responsible, I called Minister Nixon, and within 60 minutes, we had that funding restored. That's how you build relationships. And that's how you have the really heavy conversations with your government partners to say, we need you to step up and do more. We need the provincial government right now stepping up to meet its obligation to help with affordable housing, for the maintenance on the buildings that are currently in a state of disrepair. But you're not going to do that if you belong to a party, and especially if you're aligned with one government or the other, you're going to do their bidding. So I do believe in independence in local government, because that's how you actually serve the people. And when it comes to affordability of housing, providing the land to not-for-profit providers is the biggest thing that we could have done, and we have done that well.
Thank you, Mayor. This is the rebuttal round. So, Brian, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll take a shot. We've had a couple of shots taken at political parties. I wasn't a fan, but I realized it was a way to build a team. And you know how you can tell team players? They build teams. And I have 14 members in the Calgary Party working together. We have no party whip. We've agreed on 4 priorities: public safety, housing, transit, and critical infrastructure. And I find it interesting that the 2 people on the stage that have had the most difficulty working with others, the mayor repeatedly talking about how she's only 1 vote on council, Councillor Farkas, who was notoriously the most disruptive member of the previous council and never could get engaged in team play, are taking shots at someone who's building a team at a political party that's learned how to work together and saying, I'm going to lead by being independent, being 1 vote, and not being able to build consensus their entire terms.
Thank you, Brian. Councillor Sharp?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to go down that as well, that road of party. And so your Communities First is created by like-minded individuals. We have members on the party that, you know, they're card-carrying members to different political parties, but that has nothing to do with municipal politics. I've always said there's no conservative way to fill a pothole or progressive way. The unfortunate thing is one of the opponents up here that can't be a team player and loses people on his own team to run against him is very against party politics. And working with all levels of government is your job. So it doesn't matter who's in those seats. It's the government of Alberta and the government of Canada. And the more we bring in things that you were against in the past, we can continue this conversation later.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Thank you, all candidates. We'll move over to the next segment. JS will coordinate that segment.
Just when the fireworks are getting started. All right, whole new topic. This is a theme of providing economic opportunities for underrepresented groups. We all acknowledge that the city of Calgary is rapidly growing, and so too will the diversity amongst our citizens. So the first question I'll ask in 2 parts. Do you acknowledge that there are underrepresented/marginalized groups in Calgary that are not being supported to reach their full potential in our rapidly changing economy? And if so, how might you in your role as mayor provide direction to the municipal government to address that? If not, why not? What's the order? Mayor Gondek to start.
I absolutely recognize that there are marginalized groups because I've been out in community talking to them. When you see people that are not having their credentials recognized from other nations, even though they are incredibly good at what they do, we know we have a problem. So pushing for better credential recognition is something I've done for the last 8 years. When we see that there are struggles with small business owners because of the level of resentment of newcomers being in this city, we know we have problems to overcome. So anti-racism and making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion remain very important principles is going to be important. I can see someone in the audience shaking their head. So it's evident that there are people that don't believe we have this issue. But you can ask any person of color who has tried to start a business here, and they will tell you that they did encounter struggles. And that's something that we need to own and address and get better at. The City of Calgary needs to lead in this regard. We need to make sure that we are supporting businesses that are run by women, by people of color, Indigenous people, people with disabilities. We need to figure out what barriers we are putting up as administrators, and we need to figure out how we work with the business community to make those opportunities better. I also believe that we need to create well-paying jobs in all sectors, and ideas like Prairie Economic Gateway to bring back more trade and logistics and shipping and manufacturing. That's how you provide a greater certainty of diversity of jobs in this city.
All right, next, Councillor Sharp.
Thank you. So many years ago, when I was the manager of business and local economy at the City of Calgary, I would do presentations at the Centre of Newcomers for newcomers that came to Calgary to open a business, and that's when I really noticed that the fact that it was much different for them coming to Calgary to try to open up a business and how much harder it was with language barrier and understanding the regulations. So we really made sure there was a process in place for them to understand what it took to open up a business in Calgary. And as the 4 years have gone by, it's still being a struggle for them. And so, elected as your mayor in October, if I'm elected, regulatory barriers cannot be holding back business owners, especially those newcomers. So some of the best businesses in Calgary come from newcomers, and they're small business owners. Sometimes they start in their house and then they expand into a little mom and pop shop somewhere, and we all love going there. But the regulatory system can be red tape for them. And so being out in community and listening to them and learning that they still have struggles is something that we need to work on. And and the one thing too is learning from past businesses that I've owned is that some of these barriers that I faced as a woman are still out there for other women that are trying to open their businesses. And so there are things that we need to remove, even just having courses for maybe just lead for women or lead for certain cultural groups, so people are comfortable in the environment to talk about the things that they're hearing and how they can help each other.
Thank you. Jager?
Thank you. Lanre, you asked me in our interview in preparation for this about the crime, and I'll just tell you what I saw yesterday. We were walking past the Sheldon Schumer, and there were 3 Indigenous youth sitting on the ground. The one boy took some pill and put it in a pipe and crushed it, lit a fire, and smoked it. This is not the medicine pipe of this land. These people are victims of crime that is unseen. And we are going to ensure that we fully fund the police department. It's beyond me why we don't have a fully funded police department. I saw this happen to those 3 kids, and they didn't find love from the government. It was them reaching their hands out to each other in that moment when they had nothing. They had nothing but each other, and it was their family. And this is my family too. And I've seen the struggles of my siblings struggling with the traumatic experiences of residential schools, where their values have been ripped from them. They can no longer find reward in their way of life. They can't find reward in their belief system. And we have to respect this every single day. It's our families that are really struggling, and people can't afford to live anymore. And I saw it yesterday, and it broke my heart. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Thank you. Thank you. One of my first early childhood memories of being mad and really mad was when I heard that my Nagmama, my grandmother, Mary Kovac, was passed up on a job because her English wasn't good enough. And I remember sitting there as a kid thinking, she is just as Canadian as I am. She is just as entitled to that same opportunity as all of us. So why is she not allowed to work? And that's really been the same ethos that I've carried forward in a lot of my public service, my time as a city councillor advocating so that our newcomers can be welcomed to Calgary. And that's why one of our first policy commitments was actually a plan for welcoming Calgary, because a city that welcomes is a city that wins. Specifically in our plan, we call for making City Hall simpler and more transparent, expanding settlement and transit support, championing faster recognition and international credentials, as well as creating more inclusive public spaces where everyone feels at home. So welcoming people here to Calgary, it isn't just the right thing to do, it's so important to do because it grows our economy, it builds safer communities, and it helps ensure that Calgary is going to continue to thrive for generations to come, so that more people like my Nagmama never ever experience that same crushing defeat.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, sorry, it turns off after a bit. Can you hear me? Yep. Okay. So the question was about whether diverse groups are underrepresented, and the answer is yes, they are underrepresented. And I will say that, did it go off? Back on? Okay, I will say that the diversity in our community is our superpower. I worked at the Center for Newcomers when I graduated business school, and I taught courses to... Thanks, Jeff. I'll use that one. Maybe you can give Jeff that one. Okay. I taught courses to small businesses, to recent immigrants to Canada so they could obtain low-interest small business loans. And what I can tell you is they brought an amazing set of skills to our community. So I can tell you what I did when I was chair of the Police Commission. First of all, I made sure that the groups that weren't at the table were represented when we were having discussions about their community. And we should do that at City Hall. We made sure to invite people to the table. So when I started, the commission was almost entirely white men. And when I left, the majority was diverse and a majority of women. And my successor as chair of the Calgary Police Commission was a woman. So we can ensure that people are actually sitting at the table. And we need to do that as a city hall as well. So it's important to represent the community that you serve, and it's important to make sure that barriers are removed so that community can participate in the business climate, but it's also important to get your own house in order. I did that as chair of the commission, and I would do that as mayor.
Thank you. And Jeff?
I share microphones.
Thank you, Jeff.
So, I mean, certainly recognize that marginalized communities have a significantly tougher time, but looking at it from a higher level, our campaign is about one thing: building a safe and affordable place of opportunity for everyone. When we think about why we all ended up in Calgary, and it doesn't matter if you came from Saudi Arabia or Saskatchewan, we all came for the right reason: opportunity. And that's where the city needs to get out of our way. The vast majority of people coming to our city are entrepreneurs. They want to get up and running. They want to, careful now. They want to get up and running. They want to get up and running quickly, and the city needs to move on that quicker so that we can ensure that people are putting food on their tables and people are finding their way here in life. The challenge we have here in Calgary is that we've been slow to continue the transition into economic diversification in our city. We're losing thousands and thousands of energy jobs in this city. You're about to see another mega consolidation of energy companies likely to result in more jobs lost. And so as a city, I think over the last 4 years, having been the Calgary Economic Development Rep, having worked with Invest Alberta, I don't believe we have set the right economic environment to attract larger businesses here and provide those opportunities. At the end of the day, what we failed on is the social contract. We failed to provide people the opportunity they thought they could achieve here in Calgary, and that's something that we have to turn around.
I actually don't know. Should we just go into rebuttals? Are there, and I guess there were some responses to the DEI comment. And so I will maybe, I don't know, Mayor Gondek, how do you respond to people who, and I've been in those rooms too, where people roll their eyes around commentary around DEI. It's not a judgment. I just think people have a different understanding of what that is. And
My rebuttal is
different.
actually economic. Is that all right? Can I
Yeah,
do
so
that?
sure, okay.
Okay. So in the time that I've been mayor, we have diversified our economy in ways we couldn't have imagined. We have grown our tech sector so that it now constitutes 7% of our GDP when everybody said we couldn't do it. We have the strongest tech sector in this country. Filmmakers find this place the most friendly to call home in all of North America. We have struck a deal with our neighboring municipality as well as CPKC to deliver on a rail-served port. These are the kinds of things that diversify your economy. And if you talk to anybody in clean tech, they will tell you that they are succeeding in this city in ways they couldn't have imagined. We own the market in renewables. We are doing 36 times the renewables that any of the eastern provinces are doing. Our economy has diversified well over time.
Others for rebuttal? Again, the topic is around underrepresented groups in our economy, so if we're able to...
I'm just going to say one thing, that I think that we also need to do, and it was around the DI stuff, and is our own bureaucracy needs to look at different multicultural practices as well. So that's really important.
Sure, I'll jump in. So I'm a 30-year labor employment lawyer, and I advise Fortune 500 companies, municipalities, and not-for-profits on their diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. And I can tell you something. They do it not just because it's the right thing to do. They do it because it makes them money. It is the economic thing to do to involve communities, to tap into the entire market. Immigrants to our community are our superpower. We have a unique opportunity with what's going on in the United States right now to attract talent from around the world, and we want to do that. We can power our economy with the greatest minds from around the world if we get these policies right, and that's why organizations engage in it, and that's why we should do it.
Jeremy? I would just say, excuse me, it's not about the money. It's just the right thing to do to be a welcoming city. Today, Calgary, more than a third of Calgarians were born from outside of this country. And at the same time, we have one of the youngest educated workforces. What this means is that it's the world's best who are coming here to Calgary, not just to make money, not just to work, not just to fill labor shortages, not just to start jobs, but to be our neighbors, not just numbers, but to be our neighbors. So yes, it is about the economy, but it's not only about the economy. And I think we have to be a welcoming city for the sake of being a welcoming city and not just because it's good for the money.
But the question was about the economy. So I think it's important that we also it's okay. You can do things because they're the right thing to do and also because they drive your economy. Both are good. Both are good for the city. And it's okay when the question is about the economy to answer the question about the economy.
Thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, and I'll give you a good example. When I was on Calgary Economic, I pitched bringing film back to Calgary. It was a dead industry here, and it required incentive, it required infrastructure, it required talent. All of those things required the city to be a first mover in getting industry back, and one city councillor voted against it. He might be up here today. The interesting thing about why we got projects like Last of Us, why we were able to diversify the economy and move on this, is because DEI was a part of the hiring program. It was an absolute. And so when you're looking to attract global investment, when you're looking to bring big projects, it's not that you do it, it's an expectation, it is part of the package. And that is exactly how we set up the film industry to thrive back here in Calgary over 8 years ago.
All right. I have a slightly more detailed question for all the candidates to answer. You'll have 90 seconds to respond. The city and the decisions that it makes on everything ranging from upgrades to roads to building a new event center has a rippling effect on so many things, including the number of jobs created as well as procurement processes. Do you believe that the city has a role to implement or legislate that contractors or partners demonstrate a commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion? If so, how? If not, why not? Should we start with Jeff?
Yeah, again, go back to my film example, right? I don't think it's a conversation of having to force people. We should just be working with partners that have this embedded into their programs. And so when and where we are finding that the city is in the business of whether procuring construction contracts or moving forward with film projects, this is baked in. This is not something that we think about as an afterthought and something we have to come up with to check a box. It's actually an attitude. And it's an attitude that we need to have that is included in every sector across everything that's going on in our city included. So to me, I think it is part of that procurement process. It is part of the checks and balances when we're moving forward with things. But I'll tell you, the bigger issue there is making sure that we're providing local jobs is more the key. When we're looking at international contractors to come in and run the largest infrastructure project in our history here in Calgary, the Green Line, we haven't seen anything on DEI with that. In fact, we haven't even seen any real benefit for local contractors. We tried to break those contracts down. We tried to provide more jobs. These are good construction jobs that a lot of people need. And I'm quite concerned that we're selling out to a lot of US agencies coming in here, bringing the work with them, and taking the benefit when they leave.
Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, so again, as a world-class city, we're expected to have world-class policies, and it is the price of admission. When companies like Amazon look at Calgary and decide whether to put their headquarters here, they are starting from a point of their employees expect to have proper, sophisticated diversity and equity and inclusion policies. That is table stakes at this point. So the City of Calgary needs to reflect that, both in their own internal hiring practices, as well as the contracts that they enter into with others. And those companies expect that. The sophisticated organizations that are dealing with a multi-billion-dollar business like the City of Calgary know that they are expected to have sophisticated policies that they can expect to play if they don't respect diversity and inclusion in their hiring practices and promote from within. And again, that type of diversity. And again, for the city, we want to, it is both the right thing to do. We want people who recently immigrate to Canada to participate in the economy, but it also helps all the organizations, it helps the community at large to engage people, to recognize their credentials, and to bring them in as participating members of our society. So it is both the right thing to do and the right economic decision.
Jeremy?
The answer is absolutely yes. When it comes to social procurement, social enterprise, this is the lever of change that our local government can make maximum impact on. In recent weeks, I've sat down with leaders at the Tsuut'ina Nation, with Platform Calgary, with the Center for Newcomers, many organizations, and one of the most frequently cited pain points is procurement processes. And that's one of the reasons, as a city councillor, I advocated for streamlining those processes so that we can come better to the table, say with local Indigenous artists, to be able to advance reconciliation, but also on a practical level to help for our national interest. I was the first candidate on the stage to advocate for a national strategy for municipal procurement, where we could lean in and have Calgary at the center of a strong and united Team Canada. Because when we invest locally, we can make tremendous impact. And that is the kind of change that Calgarians are asking our mayor and council to deploy their taxpayer dollars for good value and for local benefit. And when we think about the overall operating budget of the City of Calgary, billions and billions of dollars, we need to steward that money wisely, but we can also deliver tremendous amount of change, especially at a time of such uncertainty. We can provide that stability locally here in Calgary, leaning in at the center of a strong and united Team Canada in order to be able to deliver for Calgarians.
Thank you, Chika.
Thank you. Well, I extremely disagree that well, that's my phone. It's not the most important lever, and Dr. Gondek will agree with me, is that in the social sciences is reciprocity. You have all these levers, and I think you got to focus on reciprocity first. Every person in this room is at risk of losing their job to artificial intelligence or robotics in the next 15 years. And DEI, even if it is there or isn't there, whatever the people want to say it is, you need somebody who's going to actually see what's going on. And if you want just an example of this, you know, the Alberta mountain horses, these are our wild horses. These are sentient beings that we have in our province. They don't speak English. They speak in body language. So for children with autism, this is great to learn about how to turn your shoulders or turn your head, how to turn your ears. You know, this is so important. And if I stand up for the horses, the people who don't speak for themselves, who's going to speak when somebody is just a checkbox? You know, and that's what happens with these processes in procurement. I know some of the people in procurement, and they're not happy with the levels of management. There's too many levels of management, as well as the teams are working in isolation, and they're not as happy. And I think what happens is when you don't set clear boundaries with administration about this is how much money you get, just like affordable housing, where we shouldn't spend more than 30% of our income on a house. You know, you have to say, this is how much money you're getting, and we have to make it work. And this is the taxpayers' money we're dealing with here. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you very much. So just to go back to procurement, when I was in administration, I actually wrote the report on benefit-driven procurement, which is now called social procurement. They went back to the root name of that. And we are leading in so many ways. The process around procurement is interesting, and I think some members up here might not remember that you actually can't get involved in procurement process as an elected official. You write the policy, you give it to administration, they go and they hire the best proponent for the work. And if they have DEI practices, that's up to the corporations doing the work. And so the one thing, though, we have done is our procurement process has gotten better and expanded into different multicultural facets, and we do have a great Indigenous procurement process now. What I will say, though, about our procurement process that does need to change is the level of certainty in order to get those bids for jobs, and not around the film stuff, because that's a whole different situation. That's film friendly, which is a whole different department. But it's like things to procure pipes for, crisis and things like that. So there needs to be a little bit more fine tuning around the certainty around social procurement and getting bids and making sure that people can deliver the work. That is the biggest challenge right now. But I would just say, as elected officials, your job is not to get involved in procurement at all. You have to be very careful with that. And there's standards that when procurement and jobs are over a certain amount, they have to be bid. So that's 70,000 and less. Bids can go out 70,000 and more. Things need to go out to tender. So these are just minor things that I think members up here might need to understand.
Thank you. Mayor Rondeck.
I think we need to be much better at procurement. We need to make sure that we are asking the challenging questions of the people that are bringing bids into us, and we need to make sure that they're real about their commitment to making sure that typically underserved groups are represented in the projects that they're bringing to us. And I'll tell you what's very interesting. Still, in this world at this time, people who are marginalized have to prove that they're as good as the mainstream people, if I may say that are applying for projects. Why is it that we still have this mindset where we think that someone who is Indigenous or someone who's a woman or someone who's a person of color or a person who has a disability is somehow going to be less good at that job, that they have to prove that they are worth it? That's how far we have not come. That's why we need these policies. We need to make sure that we are leading with the idea that it doesn't matter what somebody looks like, it doesn't matter what their background is. Their ability to do their job is the thing that matters the most. But when we make these assumptions that people that come from typically marginalized groups are somehow less than, and we need to give them a chance, they are not less than. They are simply trying to prove to you that they have every right to be in those roles. That's why we need to be better at social procurement policies that include everyone.
Thank you. We'll open the floor for rebuttals. Jager?
This is so important because I spoke with a gentleman in preparation today about the challenges coming from a country like Ukraine or any other country in the world. And that's why I proposed creating Canada's first tuition-free university right here in Calgary. As somebody who is one of the province's top experts in the regulation of private and public education, I can tell you I've seen examples where for every dollar that one of your children spend on their tuition, 2 cents, it's unbelievable, 2 cents was being spent on what was actually important to them. We can have a high quality education, and we can also ensure we have integrity of the assessments so that people can have credentials that are worth something. I don't believe what's going on is appropriate anywhere in public or private, and this is something the City of Calgary needs to intervene on right away.
Thank you. Jeremy?
On the topic of procurement and infrastructure, I think that this is where the direction of this mayor and council has gone the most awry. Right now, we're seeing too much of a focus on the mega projects, the things like the BMO Center, the Event Center, really at the expense of local street-level facilities that matter to Calgarians out in the community. And don't get me wrong, I think we got to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. But it's a little bit rich to suggest that we have to respect the procurement process, but it shouldn't apply, for example, to the Flames. I think that we need to have equity. We need to ensure that the investment for Calgarians is actually serving where those taxpayers are. What we've seen is a flight of capital from areas like the Northeast, not seeing the commensurate investment. So that is a key portion. It's not just procurements, it's actually what is being built and where.
Sorry. Oh, anybody else for rebuttal? I feel like somebody's ready. No? All right. I think that's my portion. I'll throw it over to
Thank you very much, JS, and thank you, Dr. Chika. Now the next segment is strengthening multicultural inclusion and anti-racism initiatives. And I'm going to start with Jeff. These are the questions. I'm going to have just 2 questions for this segment.
How many questions? 2 questions?
Just 2 questions. But I'm going to start with one.
Oh, okay.
I'll go around, yeah. The first question is, 8 crimes reports in Calgary increased by 42% in 2024 compared to 2023. What concrete steps will you take to make public spaces safer for racialized, LGBTQ2S+ and BIPOC communities?
Thanks for the question. I think the interesting thing is nobody feels safe in our city right now, and so it's not just marginalized communities, it's families in their neighborhoods, it's people on the C trains, it's business folks going to work downtown. You know, we've seen an incredible increase in crime over the last 4 years in our city. The challenge we have is that recent reports say, well, you know, crime is actually down. I think the problem is people are actually just tired of reporting crime because nothing's actually happening. And so we need to address things like we have the lowest officer-to-citizen ratio of any major North American city. We need to address partnerships with the provincial and federal government on things like bail reform and healthcare. And that's where the mental health and addiction side of this comes in, which is driving a lot of the challenges we're seeing. We need to provide the wraparound care so that it's not just dumping people out onto the streets from some of these emergency situations, but that the wraparound care is there to provide access to people who are seeking recovery. The challenge is we've never actually, as a municipality, all agreed we have the same problem. And we've never done that with the other orders of government. And until we all decide that it's time to fix this, it's time to bring solutions to the table, it's time to work together, find the common ground, and get it done, I firmly believe Calgary can be a city that can lead North America out of this challenge. But I'm tired of sitting here waiting for somebody else to do it for us.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, so it starts, as I referred to before, by engaging with communities and listening to communities. And when I was chair of the commission, we did a community dinner. We'd have leaders from each of the different community groups around the city, diverse groups, and we asked them for their feedback, and that formed our policy on how we could better protect within communities. So what you found was when you were currently right now in the Northeast, in the Indian community, there's significant concerns about extortion. Different communities have different neighborhood concerns, and you have to start by actually engaging with them, listening to them, and forming your policies to reflect their priorities, to answer your question. Our public safety toolkit is focused on a root cause, homelessness. That is a housing first strategy to provide housing for the unhoused. And it struck me over the last week as I listened to Communities First unveil their policy to close the Shamir and the drop-in center, that they think the homeless are the problem, that they think the homeless are criminals. The criminals prey on the homeless. They are some of our most vulnerable population. Calgary Police Service will tell you that there's about 50 offenders that prey on the thousands of homeless in our city. So thinking of them as your constituents and forming a policy that addresses the root causes and treats them as your fellow citizens is essential to good public safety policy.
Jeremy?
Would you mind just repeating the question?
So, 8 crimes reports in Calgary increased by 42% in 2024 compared to 2023. What concrete steps will you take to make public spaces safer for racialized, LGBTQ+ and BIPOC communities?
Thank you. And as pretty much Calgary's first openly queer city councillor, the death threats are something I personally have to live with pretty much every day. I was just for dinner hosted by the Jewish community, a Shabbat dinner, and the community members I spoke with told me how hurt they felt that the mayor and certain city councillors were not there for them as a community, skipping details or skipping events like the menorah lighting. I think it is so central for a mayor and council to show up for the community, not to pick sides, but to be there for every single community. And if an attack happens on any of us, it's deemed to be an attack on all of us. And that's the approach that I would take specifically for showing up for the community, not just one day out of the week, every day of the week. That's why as well my safety plan proposes strong support for public safety, strong support for our police while holding them accountable, measures like reopening the downtown police station that was closed by the former police commission chair, as well as advocating for prevention, getting to the root causes of crime, ensuring that we're taking an upstream approach, addressing these crises before they actually get to that point. It's a very challenging issue, but it starts with showing up, it starts with supporting the community, as well as being tough on crime and even tougher on the causes of crime.
Thank you. Chika?
There are people statistically in this room right now who are experiencing domestic violence at home. And all of this comes from a culture of retaliation that stems from blame. Blame leads to guilt, guilt leads to punishment, and punishment always leads to pain, and that relates to the retaliation. The key here is prevention. And right now, our community resource officers with the Calgary Police Service are understaffed. And I spoke with them, and the first thing we need to do is make sure we retain the great people. We have to retain them and their knowledge. And the second thing is then we need to make sure they have the right skills and the right tools, and then we can start recruiting more based on a great culture. I propose that I want to advocate. The job of the mayor is to represent the residents, so we need crime prevention in terms of this. You know, our worth shouldn't be based on our complexion. Our worth shouldn't be based on who we love, but based on what we contribute to our society. And some people can't always contribute, and we still value them too, and we have to acknowledge that. The most important thing, though, is these community resource officers. All of our community resource officers, I can tell you, most likely, now this is my opinion, have PTSD. If you go one day with the police, you'll see things that nobody should ever have to see, and they see this every day. And they are continuing to engage with people in a positive manner in the community. This is very important because what's happening is they're thinking everybody's a suspect instead of everybody being a citizen. And prevention's key.
Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, I will just say that there's no room in the city for, tolerating violent behavior or any culture to feel feared. And that's what's been happening over the last couple of years with different cultures and different communities. And as mayor, my job is to represent all communities and cultures, and that's what I'll do. Now, there's been some comments around homelessness and communities first, thinking they're the problem. That is an absolute lie. The conversation was about closing the Beltline injection site and decentralizing the services at the Schumer or at the drop-in center, because condensing all of that in one area is just not safe anymore. Now, the other thing is bringing the 500 new police officers to Calgary is just to catch up from where we were at. We're behind when it comes to police officer to population growth. The 24/7 day-a-week police station downtown is required. We are a big city. We're one of the only big cities without a police station downtown. And so I would say, are there marginalized groups that fear more than others? Absolutely they are. And I feel like maybe I'm naive that we're still having this conversation after how many years, but as mayor, my job is to represent everyone. Whatever banner you fly under, whatever color your skin is, that is your job. And you got to park your own beliefs, and that's what I will do for Calgary.
Thank you. Mayor Gonde.
I had hoped that after COVID, we would see a lot less polarization in the world, that perhaps we had spent enough time being isolated from each other that we would be very interested in coming back together. And unfortunately, that hasn't been the case. The level of polarization just continues to go to new extremes. And the ideological debates that wage are creating a much more difficult society to operate in. And it is difficult to be a local politician when there is global conflict. And there are sometimes things that happen oceans away that you are expected to weigh in on here. And I will tell you, I have learned a lot of valuable lessons from sitting with community. And I haven't always done things in the way that some communities would want me to, but I have gone back and had open and frank conversations with people. And that's not easy to do, but I'm committed to that because that's my job as the mayor, to serve everyone. And I will say this as well. We had some tough things in front of us this term. One of the best things we did is create the Safe Spaces bylaw. I have to thank administration for coming forward and making sure that we respected people who want to demonstrate, but we also made sure that our public spaces are safe for the people that are there to enjoy programming. And I also think that having a dedicated line to call when you are seeing something that is a hate crime is going to be important. It should be a text line so that you're not visibly on the phone. These are the types of things we can do to address the type of hate that we see escalating here.
Amazing. Now for reporters, we'll start with you, Brian. This question came up about police station in downtown closing. Do you have anything to say about that?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Mr. Farkas misled the audience last time, and he's just done it again. As he knows, because he was on the commission, Calgary Police Service proposes their operational rollout, and it was the Calgary Police Service that proposed closing the Beltline location. Commission's role as civilian oversight is to ask really tough questions of the service, and we did. I can tell you there's public minutes where myself and Vice Chair Silver, now Madam Justice Silver, grilled them at length about their decision to close the downtown location. I then went to City Hall and spoke with a number of councillors because, of course, City Council approves that budget and has final say. And I can tell you, I can name the 3 councillors that asked questions about closing the Beltline, and Councillor Farkas wasn't one of them.
Any rebuttal, Jeff?
I'm enjoying this.
Okay, so Jeff, you said something about bill reforms, lowest officer ratio, in North America. Any comment from any candidate regarding? You said we have a lowest officer ratio and bill reforms. What can we do to improve that?
Well, I think it's part of the overall strategy. I don't think it's a single one thing. I don't think the situation we're seeing, certainly in downtown and across our city, is solved by policing alone. It's all about adding resources for police and then supporting the police through other agencies and wraparound care, right? Remember that the vast majority of challenge we're seeing on the streets is we got there because of mental health and addiction problems. Number one, we've got to get proactive about keeping people off the streets and not sending them down into this path. Number two, we have to start supporting our resources that are in the field, whether that's police, whether that's fire, whether that's the dope team. All of these things need to be supported and providing consistent wraparound care if we're going to get people out of this system into recovery and then maintaining them in a place of productivity.
Thank you. Any other? Yeah. Okay, Jeremy, and then Mayor Gondek, and then Brian.
Yeah, my central message is in a city like Calgary, we can solve this, and we will solve this. One of the unfortunate issues with the introduction of party politics is it's really demonstrated the extremes. Is it only cops? Is it only social workers? What we know is that we need to be tough on crime and even tougher on the causes of crime. That's why, as a city councilor, I advocated and I was a co-signer on the Community Action on Mental Health and Addiction Strategy with Mayor Naheed Nenshi. And I was also formerly a police commissioner as well, advocating strongly for the reopening of a downtown police station. So for us to move forward as a city, I know that we can. And it's going to have to take all of the ideas from across the political spectrum. It can't just either be cops versus the social workers. It has to be tough on crime and tougher still on the causes.
Thank you. Mayor Gondek.
We hear from Calgary Police Service through Calgary Police Commission. They're the ones that bring the budget forward, and they have told us they simply do not have the capacity to train more recruits right now. They cannot take this on, so 500 new officers is a wild dream. They will also tell you that they don't think there is any way to enforce our way out of the situation we're in. They are begging for more resources. That's why an idea like cutting down on or cracking down on open use and diverting people into the community court system is so significant. Community court gets people connected with the supports that they need. It helps people find solutions for homelessness, for addiction, gets them into recovery. That's the type of solution we need. The police service is actively asking us for that.
Okay, Brian, and then Sonia after. Brian?
He already went.
Okay,
I was just going to say, it's not hiring 500 new police officers to solve the root causes. We pitched the 500 just to catch up. And so this is where, I would implore everyone just to understand and read everything. And I know that there's, you can't police your way out of this. Well, the other thing is, again, understanding roles and responsibilities, giving everyone the tools in their lane to do the job that they need to have. Right now, our firefighters actually show up to the most #1 calls for like the overdoses. How do you think they're going to feel here soon? And so I think what we knew is we have to give them the supports we need, but also work with the provincial government in their role. We talk a big game, and members of council that sat before and current about the province downloading. We're allowing them to do it. So let's start putting our foot down and saying, this is what we're responsible for, this is what you're responsible for, and let's work together.
Thank you. I'll go to the second question. I will start with Mayor Gondek. How will you ensure City Hall's leadership reflects Calgary's diversity, particularly in senior roles where representation lags?
Thanks very much for that question. I've had several conversations with our senior leadership team, and I have asked them, how can you possibly understand what kind of anti-racism measures are needed when none of you are from a community that is marginalized in any way? And the responses I've gotten are, we are taking active training, we are getting stronger. I'm very happy they're taking training. I'm very happy that they have programming to help understand what anti-racism actually means. But you cannot match lived experience. And so I think it's really important for senior leadership to have that diversity of person who can bring a different perspective to the table. There is so much value in having different lived experience in a leadership team so you can challenge each other to be better, so you can bring up different things that otherwise you wouldn't. If you only had lawyers making a decision and you didn't have, a doctor in the middle of it and it was a medical question, everyone would be deciding in the same way. It's the same thing on everything that we do. Every decision we make as a city needs to be informed by diverse perspectives, and lived experience matters.
Councillor Shaw.
Yeah, I will say that the hiring practices at City Hall are archaic. And so to say that they go through worldwide searches and then end up with the same person that filled in while the other person had left is just normal practice because they don't want to make the effort for it. So things do need to change. One thing today when we had Indigenous Council is it was nice to hear from all the elders and just tell us how much we helped heal them. And one of my things back to them was, actually, you helped heal me, because over the 4 years, I would never have taken, the time to listen and really understand what they went through in their lives. And so taking what people in other cultures and other hiring practices and leadership and teaching us how to do things. And that's one thing the city needs to get better at. You have archaic HR policies. You need to open that up and bring in people from different groups, call it private sector, and say, your hiring practices are archaic and this is what you need to do. And, you always do need to find the right person for the job, but there can be a diversity lens to that, and that not just being, color or, ethnicity. It can also just be, a woman in a certain job, and we've seen more of that, but there's still a lot of barriers that no one wants to talk about.
Chika.
We all sit in a circle and suppose, but the secret is in the center and knows. I asked my grandma, hi grandma, I said, Grandma, she'd been involved with city politics for a long time, back since the 50s, because she used to sit at the dinner table when the politicians would come over for dinner, I'm sure. And I said, Grandma, what's the problem? And she said, well, people in the city of Calgary feel unsafe. You can feel this. Watch the council meetings. The poor, I won't name names here, but you can hear it in their voice, the shaking, the trembling. They're very anxious. I think we need to have a collaborative approach, and that's why I proposed that we actually turn the municipal building over time into Calgary City Centre University and build a new municipal building called Concordium up on Tom Campbell's Hill in a circle. There's already a circle there. It's like meant to be, and I think this is going to be wonderful. A council chamber for the next 400 years. Limited municipal. Remember, we're not really a government, more like a municipal corporation. It's a council that leads it, and over time we'll build a municipal corridor. So as the city center grows, I've been to some of these big mega cities in the world. We need to have this wonderful, nature in the middle, and we have all this great land there. Great partners with this. We've got some great ideas, and we're going to slowly work on this over time. But we need to make sure that they sit in a circle first. And I don't like how council only meets twice, like their meetings with all these committees. I think it's a bit funny. They need to be meeting twice a week on every Tuesday and every Thursday. They need to be working, and I have plans for 16 years of content. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy.
16 years.
Actually, so the Gregorian calendar works in a
Oh my gosh.
2008
I just opened a can of worms here. The fact of the matter is that the senior leadership at the City of Calgary, as well as the individuals who are appointed to the agencies, boards, committees, and commissions, is much, much less representative Calgarians today than it was 5 years ago. This is an area that I really leaned into, alongside actually Councillor Davison and others, as part of the nominating committee, working with Naheed Nenshi, as well as trying to recruit members of the public to serve on these agencies, boards, committees, and commissions. This is one of the most integral ways that we can actually advance ensuring that those decisions are representative of Calgarians. But it's not just good enough to have a board or a commission that just meets and isn't listened to. This is the really central issue with this mayor and council, is what I describe as the say-do gap. There's a lot of good work that's being done in the community, but it's not being represented on an actionable level by the decisions that are being undertaken by the mayor and council. So firstly, we need to ensure that more Calgarians representing every single walk of life and corner of the city are represented in the council chambers, in these committees and commissions. But if we're going to ask them to meet, that we actually listen to Calgarians. And it's by listening to Calgarians that we can actually be that safer, more affordable, future-ready city with the best possible ideas to get it done.
Thank you. Brian?
Yeah, so in my experience working with organizations to implement these policies, you have to have measurable KPIs. How are they performing? You have to hold them accountable quarterly. And that is the role of City Council. City Council is the Board of Governors, and they're supposed to be asking these questions of City Admin. When I read the City Admin reports, there's a lot of key word dropping. The word diversity appears a lot without the follow-up. I'll tell you my experience when I was on the commission. There was actually a city policy to ensure that we had gender parity on all boards and commissions. And at the time, Councillor Gondek and I were on the commission together, and the city sent us, we needed 3 female candidates for the commission, and the city sent us all male candidates. And we asked them the question, and they said we couldn't find any qualified women. So this was their own policy on gender diversity, and their response to me was they couldn't find qualified women in Calgary to serve on the commission. So I went out to a group of women that finds board members and asked them for an HR manager, a CFO, and we had them within a few days, and we had them appointed to the commission. So that's a clear illustration to me of a city admin that there's a breakdown, and I think Councillor Sharp and Mayor Gondek pointed that out, that there's a bit of a breakdown in the implementation side by city admin, and I'd have to agree with them on that. I don't see the follow through, and I don't see the understanding of how the policy should actually be implemented.
Thank you. Jeff?
You know, I'm not going to harp on the what should have been done at the city or anything like that. I think it's about making sure that we have the right people at the table to have the right conversations. You know, I'll give you a bit of real world experience in my job, CEO of the Prostate Cancer Center. I'm not the doctor, right? But I deal with patients every day. I deal with their families. I deal with the doctors. I deal with the nurses. I deal with the researchers. Sometimes it's about being a leader who puts it all together. Again, bring people together, find the common ground, and get things done. And in our case, it's all about how do we bring people together to focus on that one single patient. Everything is about them. Everybody's different. And in a growing city, we have to be more cognizant that we're going to have to catch up with these things. We're going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to change as a city. Again, Calgary's the greatest city on earth. People see that. This is the land of opportunity. But it's ensuring that we have the right people at the table to make the right decisions, to influence the policies we have so that we know we're getting it right and in a fair way of representation to who our community is. You don't start by trying to make change by not inviting the right people to the table. And so I think that is something that needs to change.
Thank you. I will ask this, Councillor Sharp, you mentioned something about the formation within the HR of the city. Can you briefly explain how you meet on this?
So I just used an example, like, so if you have someone retire or they get let go for some reason, and someone fills in, and it's almost like already determined that that person filling in, acting, is going to get the job. So they put out a posting that could cost, I don't know, a lot of money, and they say we're going to do a worldwide search, and then they end up with the same person that's acting. And maybe there were people that applied from the city that were more qualified. It's almost like they already know who's going to get that job. So why are we even doing that? And so if you're really going to do a worldwide search, and I hear a lot from employees that apply for positions that are probably more qualified than the person that actually gets it, and they're not getting it. So where are we going wrong? So this needs to be kind of opened up and explored. And I think probably that's something we can all agree about.
Yeah, Jeff.
I just want to say you've had a seat at the table for 4 years and you've talked a lot about things that haven't been done. Why haven't you done this if this is all of a sudden a priority?
So HR is the CAO priority, and it has been on his.
I don't need a bureaucratic response.
I'm just letting you know.
Saying as a city councillor, why have you not tabled change through the CAO?
So we have, actually, and so they're doing that, but it's not done, so it needs to be opened up and looked at. So over the last 4 years, actually, Mayor Gondek and I have sat on that CAO performance evaluation, and that is one of his top priorities that he needed to deliver on. We're just reiterating what needs to be done. So it's in the works, it's just not done yet.
I would just say it's your employee. Hire slow, fail fast.
You hired him.
Can I mention, I don't think we
But
should
you're the
blame-
manager, so, you know.
Yeah. I don't think we should blame any people here. We should just blame the furniture, right? So sit in a circle. It's feng shui, guys. It's very simple. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Jeremy?
Now, I would just mention on the topic of diversity, it's also diversity of thought. I think we have a culture issue corporately at the City of Calgary, which is not embracing of new ideas. There hasn't really been a strong direction from a mayor and council to be able to have those ideas. And I think on the stage as well, we have 3 out of 6 of us who are endorsed by major political parties. The suggestion from these other candidates is that they can only get things done so long as they are elected alongside city councilors that agree with them 100% of the time. And it's so critical for leadership. What I've learned as a nonprofit CEO, as a community volunteer, as a nonprofit board director, is you have to be able to work with everybody. You have to be able to pull together the left and the right to be able to get things done. And a lot of the dysfunction that we see from this mayor and council is that it's one group on the in, one group on the out, but Calgarians are the ones that are paying the price for that.
Yeah, Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, I'm going to clear the air on this party thing. So, Mr. Farkas, when it comes to political parties, we created our own. Communities First is our own party. So if you're saying we're endorsed by a party, I guess I've endorsed myself. The other thing is there are 3 other members of current council that are on that party that turned to me and said, please run for mayor, we want to endorse you. That carries a lot of weight. And for, someone that sat on council for 4 years and was Mr. No, and to sit here and say, I'm ready to work with anyone, that's a tough sell for me. And I have brought a lot of contentious items across the floor and contentious, and they passed unanimously. So to say that we're endorsed by certain parties, that's also a lie.
Thank you. We're going to go to the next round. It's on public transit and infrastructure in growing communities, and I will be inviting Ken Iloncho, co-founder and board secretary from Calgary Black Chamber, to handle this segment.
Hi, everyone. So, welcome. Thank you. Kenai Luchon KC from the Calgary Black Chambers. So we're going to change this up a little bit. We'll start with you, Councillor Farkas, go anti-clockwise, and end with Dr. Gus, okay? So everyone's favorite topic, public transit and infrastructure. But this time we'll focus on the growing communities. So the outer ring communities all over Calgary either lack reliable transit or no public transit, forcing residents into car dependency. How will you expand service while keeping fares affordable? So we start with you, come this way, and we end with Dr. Gauss.
Thank you. And growing up in East Calgary and Dover, I didn't realize it, but I lived in a community that had much less level of service, investment, and attention as other places in the city. I don't begrudge other places of the city for the investment that those councils have provided, but the whole point is about equity. We need a transit system that serves every single Calgarian so that from corner to corner of the city, no matter where you want to go, no matter what time of the day, that you have safe and quality options. It involves advocacy with the provincial government, ensuring that we're getting our fair share of funding within the province for major LRT infrastructure, things like the Green Line, but we also need the Blue Line and the Red Line extended. It starts there. Secondarily, we've not seen the advocacy from this mayor and council for one of the most important, crucial poverty reduction measures that we've ever seen in our province, which is the low-income transit pass. This is an absolute lifeline for tens of thousands of Calgarians every single year. And the idea that it's become a bit of a political football where Calgarians have to go to City Council every year, share their stories, intimate stories about how important this bus pass is, just like me, who is in a position of having to rely on those measures, those Calgarians should have the certainty to know that regardless of their need, that they will be served by this mayor and council. And that's absolutely what I will do, is to push for that advocacy and ensure that our mobility systems overall, no matter how you choose to get around, are safe and affordable.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that Mr. Farkas has discovered transit, because when he was a city councillor, he was the sole vote against the Green Line. He obstructed it all along the route. He voted against max rapid bus routes in his ward, and his constituents are to this day paying for that decision. Thank you. I will say that the Calgary Party and myself have come up with a transit policy that is focused on getting the Green Line built to the original route underground, and most importantly to the north. We want to extend the east-west connector at the airport so that it can connect to the Green Line in the future on the west side, as well as provincial rail. And on the east side, quickly connect with 2 stops to the airport. That would provide both the train, much needed train from the airport to downtown, but it would also connect the northeast community to the airport where many of them work. As well, for max rapid bus routes, we want to increase the frequency that bus routes are running and the dependability so that we can increase funding to those so that they run every 10 minutes so that people can get to work all around the city, north, south, east, west. Max rapid bus routes are the easiest, most affordable way to dramatically increase transit, which the majority of people in Calgary rely on to get to work every day.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. I know we do a lot of sniping back and forth up here, but I'm actually going to provide a compliment here. I actually think Mayor Gondik did a great job with the low-income transit passes and ensuring that that moves forward as a priority for this city, because we all know how incredibly important it is for people to get to work, get to appointments, and just live their lives. And sometimes people just need that hand up, not a handout. And so I think that's some great work done. I would also say that it's been an incredibly difficult time managing the Green Line process. I think that is a huge challenge for our city. Nobody's going to be perfect at it, but at the end of the day, it's a project that we know Calgarians care about and that we have to deliver. I think the opportunity in transit is actually to look at things like transit-oriented development. So supporting growth along transit lines is a big priority so that we can build tax base along the way rather than erode the tax rate. I think we also have to get a little bit more inventive as a city and think about P3 projects. I've long been a huge proponent of this Banff Rail Transit line. You know, the idea of going from Airdrie to the airport to downtown Calgary all the way to Banff, I think is an incredible opportunity for us to provide transit access to the airport at no cost to the city. And so that's an important thing to remember, because when we think about the average tourist, the 4.4 million people that come to our province every year as tourism, the vast majority go to Banff and they bypass Calgary. If we can get them staying one night in the city of Calgary, that's an economic benefit of about $250 million. That's $250 million we could prioritize back into things like transit progress.
Thank you. Mayor Gondik?
Thank you for the question. And public transit is important because it is really the great equalizer. It's the thing that offers you the opportunity to get anywhere you need to go and participate in the economy and participate in education, get to your appointments. It's the thing that people need to make sure that they've got quality of life, so it should be treated like an essential service. And instead, we get into debates on council about how we're going to have transit pay for itself. We should be thinking of transit as a public service. And so when the budget comes, I have said very clearly, show me how much it costs to deliver proper transit services in this city, and we will strengthen our tax base to make sure everyone has access. So we are not bickering over low-income bus passes, so that everyone has equal opportunity to participate in transit. You do that with a strong tax base. You do it by building downtown so that you can have that certainty of property value. You do it by building an industrial corridor that will generate the property taxes you need to deliver things like transit service. And this council actually has funded the extension of the Blue Line to the airport. We managed to get provincial money for it. We're waiting on the feds. We are the ones that managed to get the Green Line going We are the ones that kept transit on demand alive to provide certainty and predictability of service in communities that didn't have it. We have continued to invest in public transit because it is an essential service.
So investing in transit is critical. The one thing, though, we do lose like 60 cents on every ride for public transit. The other big thing is we put billions of dollars into the Green Line without even laying a single track, and that led us to being behind. And so now that we finally got the Green Line going, the south leg actually has to get done and get going to recoup some, costs that we need to move forward with. And what that looks like moving north and the connection to Banff, I think those are great ideas. And I know there's a lot of vision, but we have got to get what's realistically in front of us going before we can actually start talking about some of these other things. And so I'm not going to sit here and promise things to anybody, because I can tell you I've lived through this Green Line thing for 4 years. And if we can get going from Event Center South as far as we can to the hospital, that is a huge win. Getting north needs to be a next second priority, but things need to be phased out, and we need to make sure we have money for that. Right now, unfortunately, things don't look good. We put all our eggs in one basket. So I'm going to be a realist when it comes to this. It does need to go north, but we've got to get going south. And low-income transit pass, of course, is a priority, but we have to look at the cost that we lose on that. The other thing was, we talk about transit, it has to be safe. We just had an incident the other day with one of our employees. So if we want people to ride our train and ride our buses, we have a safety component here to implement. And we can't not talk about that either.
Thank you. Dr. Goss?
Well, we're going to have the best trains. It's going to be so amazing. So what's happened here was, I've looked into all the people who were working on the Green Line. What were all these problems? Because it's very, very complex. And then I realized, it's the money. And well, who makes the money? Well, it's our good friends over in Ottawa who make the money. And we know somebody now who's our Prime Minister who's actually, used to have his name on the money. So what we've got to do is start to get the land for these larger projects. We have the Major Projects Office now opening up in Calgary. And some of the people up here have been working very, very hard with partners to get things established for transit, not just for east to west and north, but also south for goods. And we need to continue this as well. Yes, we're going to continue to get the airport connector done. That's the purple line on the map, and get the 88th Street stop done as soon as possible. And it shouldn't be too expensive, but they need to stay on budget and on time. There needs to be accountability with this. I think people in the future will want to see you land at the airport, and then you can go right downtown. It's about 12 minutes or so, and then you can go to Banff. It's going to be great for business, and people are just going to love coming here. Imagine going up to Edmonton, spending an hour on a train in the morning, have your coffee on the train. You don't have to deal with the office and then go work in another city. We're going to have the best trains in Calgary, and we have to keep doing this. But one thing is, I really don't believe that seniors should have to pay for transit passes, so I'm going to work very hard to make sure that we lose more money on senior tickets.
Thank you, Dr. Goss. You have a rebuttal? Go ahead.
So a speaker before me talked about transit requiring a business case. Another speaker talked about all of us putting all of our eggs in one basket. Why does the shift worker in Skyview Ranch or the senior in Marlborough need a business case for essential services to be able to get to their job or their appointment, but the Flames don't for a multi-billion-dollar arena? There's something wrong when we do not consider transit what it is, which is an absolutely essential service. We know all of the reasons in terms of social good, return on investment, personal individual freedoms, dignity, all of the reasons why transit is an essential service. And as mayor, I will advocate from that foundational perspective for the shift worker in Skyview Ranch or any single corner of the city. This is an essential service, and we need a mayor and council who are willing and able to invest in it.
Thank you, Councillor Farkas. Any other? Go ahead.
I'll just say that, everyone on this stage with me, with the exception of Jaeger, have served on council, and we delayed by about 10 years the Green Line project, and it more than doubled in cost during that time. So there's plenty of responsibility to go around. And when Councillor Farkas was opposing the Green Line and instituting major delays, that's billions of dollars in costs that we are still paying for. So we have to get serious about making it a continuous construction project. And I respect Councillor Sharp's reference to the costs and evaluating the costs, but we also need it to continue through downtown and to the north. And frankly, major multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects like this are going to require a long-term commitment from the province and the feds, so we have stable funding and we can build this kind of serious infrastructure.
Thank you. Interestingly, a lot of the speakers have talked about these Green Line projects. So my next question is actually about it. So it's all in your wheelhouse. So the Green Line LRT has faced delays and cost overruns. What's your plan to regain public trust in this Green Line project and future infrastructure projects? So why don't I start with you, Mayor Gonde, considering that's your baby.
I can tell you that on September 7th last year, when the province once again pulled the rug out from under us, I didn't pitch a fit. I called them and said, you do realize that by canceling the Green Line project, you're not even going to get your south leg. And I showed them the error of their ways, and I got them back to the table, and we managed to get an agreement in place. Now, do I agree with their imaginary elevated line through downtown? Absolutely not. And that's why I broke that decision into two pieces. And I said we need to do a feasibility study and understand if the 5% of the work you've done is actually even real. That feasibility study is underway right now at the same time that track is going to be laid in the south. So I stood up for Calgarians and made sure the Green Line actually came to life. And I'm still fighting for Calgarians to make sure that the underground option that we have for downtown is the one that carries the day, because the experts will tell us that's what we should do. And I will make sure that we get to the north, because that's a promise made to Calgarians who actually have the highest ridership in the city. I did that because I didn't get angry with the province. I convinced them to come back to the table, which is my job.
Thank you. Councillor Davison?
Oh, I'm not a councillor.
Sorry.
But thank you.
Mr. Davison.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, I think the hardest part with Green Line is really understanding, you know, where the capital costs are going. I don't think as the average citizen we have access to the type of budgeting and understanding of the complexities that we're going through. The thing we do need to understand is that this requires leadership, and it requires us to actually lead the largest infrastructure project in this city's history. But while we talk a lot about the $6.8 billion that this is going to cost us, and talk less about who this is going to serve, the other challenge we have to start thinking about is the operational costs of this going forward. So approximately $44 million every year that's going to have to go into this. That's why it's so important to build tax base as we're building Green Line, to offset the costs of those operational dollars that Calgarians are going to feel the brunt of. And when we think about right now, the idea that most people are in an affordability crisis right now. The average person is not very far away from bankruptcy in our city. You don't address affordability by charging people more tax dollars. You have to be more thoughtful about the plan. And so I'm encouraged that we're building Green Line. I think we will be able to manage through the capital costs, but we also need to think about the end user and what that means to Calgarians when the true costs of Green Line are revealed.
Thank you. Mr. Davison?
Thank you. I think back a lot about, if you Google it, Ralph Klein when he proposed the red line. And the debate that he ran into was it wasn't feasible. You're building a train to nowhere because it's only downtown, because he built the hardest part first. And no one would ever ride it. And here we are 40 years later. It's extended all the way up into the northwest and through the city. It has hundreds of thousands of riders every year. And we're having the exact same debate again about the Green Line. It's good to remember what happened last time and how that city council was right. And by the way, he had to fight with the provincial government who didn't want to fund it. So we're going through the same exercise. One of the things that we can do, I agree with Mr. Davison about funding and ridership and how that pays for it. Transit-oriented density has to be a huge portion of it. Here's the thing. A number of builders bought locations all along the planned Green Line route with the idea, with major multi-million-dollar investments, with the idea that they would build that density along the Green Line. So when the province got involved and started canceling things like the Eau Claire Market site, they exposed us themselves to multi-billion-dollar lawsuits, which are coming, by the way. So we need to get serious about building transit-oriented density, about 20 sites all along the line. You look at Westbrook Mall right now, on the blue line, you could actually build with a C-train underneath an empty parking lot today, and that helps fund, through the ridership, paying for your transit.
Thank you. Councillor Fergus.
Thank you. And my votes as a member of council representing the Beltline have been brought up. I wanted to clarify my advocacy every step of the way was for the Green Line. It was very clear that what council had in front of us was not going to be able to get to the ridership to where it was needed the most, which was namely North Central Calgary. What I proposed was two alternatives, the first of which would have been to construct from the new arena down to the South Health campus, take some of the savings from not going through the downtown and instead pushing out on the blue line 2 more stops. So to be crystal clear, my advocacy was not a no. It was about how we could actually build transit to be able to get faster to the Calgarians who needed it. And I had the courage to be able to go to residents in my own ward and say that projects like the Southwest BRT should be on hold for the benefit and the greater good of the entire city. Because that is the responsibility that we have as a council, as a mayor, to again make decisions on behalf of what's best for the entire city. So yes, I did have the courage to advocate against that project in Southwest Calgary, but it was for us to be able to actually use the funds to get it out further. That said, what I've heard in my discussions with local community associations as well as impacted business owners specifically in the Beltline, they've told us what has been agreed to behind closed doors by mayor and council is not tenable. It does not work for the urban realm, for safety, for property values, for all of these reasons we need our downtown to be livable. And I'll be advocating for those residents to be brought to the table so that Calgarians have transparency in terms of what Mayor Gondek has agreed to with the UCP.
Thank you. Dr. Gus.
A bus has become a sanctuary for the least among us. It's like a church where the weak and the weary used to go. They now find themselves on a bus with somebody who is behind plastic. And it's very expensive plastic, I can tell you. What we need to look at is ensuring that seniors can ride on transit without having to pay. I think it's ridiculous that they have to pay. You know, I would never want to charge my grandma to go on transit. It will cost money. The other thing is operating some of these nation-building projects, and we want that money. Okay, even if you don't like Mark Carney, some people like him, some people don't like him, some people are in the middle. Okay, but there's money. Okay, and it's like, well, we want the money in Calgary, please. And so we're getting huge investment in Calgary. We want to keep it here, and we want to develop some of the brightest minds. And we're going to be working on these major infrastructure projects. And one of the great things is, how do we power these? Because these are electricity. You know, there's not batteries, but electricity. It's with, if you imagine those old steam engines, right? They use steam to power them. In the future, we're going to use that thermal transfer technology. And we're not going to use the word nuclear too much because that scares people, but these are very safe technologies. We've been using them for a very, very long time across the world, and we will be able to power them. And the beautiful thing is it comes full circle is that lower cost energy also benefits the least among us. So we're going to be helping Canada first, Alberta first, and then Calgary first because it's not about selfish.
Thank you, Dr. Gus. And Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, thank you very much. Oh, just to be clear, transit does not pay for itself. And these transit-oriented development areas are critical, like some of my opponents have mentioned. They are very good opportunities to build housing, senior housing, student housing, affordable housing, so that we can get the tax base to put that back into our revenue streams. Now back to the Green Line. I was new to council when I learned about the Green Line and the monster of the project that the last council approved. And it was never going to happen. And so I think they knew that. And unfortunately, things, kind of went south. We got the letter and the, I guess you can say, proposal on Twitter that, the province was pulling out of their funding if we didn't have that conversation. Now, one thing I will say that maybe needs a little bit of clarification, that I don't believe it was just Mayor Gondek who saved the Green Line. It was a team of people. We put a committee together to get everyone back at the table. The relationship with the province was broken. And so there were people on council that did not want the Green Line at this point, and the new vision for the Green Line to move forward, and that's fine. That's their opinion. But I would say that it was a bit of a team effort with some of the other members of council, Mayor Gondek and myself, to bring the province back together because it was a broken relationship. And to do like anything, you know, in order to move business, relationships are everything, and this is what it was, and a trust. So I would say that we're in a good place right now, and it needs to get started, and transit-oriented development needs to take off as well, and we are seeing some of that starting to finally happen.
Thank you. In view of time, I will not ask my last question. However, I'll allow some additional. Mayor?
Mr. Farkas, while you were out at UCP fundraisers our last term, I was fighting for the Green Line. Not once did you advocate for the North Central solution. So I don't know where your history comes from, but it is not rooted in any kind of fact. And there are no backroom deals that are being made. It is publicly available information what the province is proposing for their elevated line. There are no secrets. And it is publicly documented that I oppose it, and I continue to oppose it, and that I have asked, together with council, for a feasibility study. And you can talk to all the business owners along that proposed line. I have been out to see all of them.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other? Go ahead, Councillor.
It's just not realistic in the same breath to say that you've both saved the Green Line and you oppose what is being built. If anything, the dream and what was sold to Calgarians in North Central Calgary, actual transit-oriented development, quality services, quality of life, areas that you used to represent, Mayor Gondek, as a city councillor. These folks may not see quality transit for the next 20, 30 years. That's why my plan advocates for building that transit faster, investment in bus rapid transit and queuing. Obviously, we cannot deliver on Green Line based on the decisions that this mayor and council have agreed to. But that said, we can give Calgarians in North Central Calgary the certainty that transit will be coming. If it's not Green Line, it'll be far more advanced bus rapid transit than they have today.
Guess what? They already have it because I built it into the recommendations in 2020 that you voted against. So North Central Calgarians do not have you to thank, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Any other questions, comments?
I would just say it's a matter of public record. You can see how Councillor Farkas voted, and he did not have any conditions about the North. He's revising history. There's a reason that former leader Preston Manning called him the no person that wasn't capable of being mayor. He voted against major projects like the Green Line, and now he's trying to sell us that he's a pro-Green Line, pro-transit individual. It's absolutely absurd, and you can read it in the public record. You can read the minutes of City Council, and I encourage you to do so. Mayor Gondek is correct on this one.
Thank you, everyone.
Well, thank you, candidates, for such a fantastic conversation. Can we put our hands together for the candidates, please? Thank you, thank you. Well, I'm the lucky person who takes you through the final round of questions tonight. And so we're going to have a different order. We'll have people in the audience who have questions. Please indicate by raising your hand, and then we'll mark you down. And then, yeah, so while we do that, I have questions that came in online that I'll also read out for the candidates, and we'll have a lightning round as well, where your responses will be yes, no, and a quick one-liner following that, just so we can get through to everyone and have all the questions answered. I see Jeff very excited about this round.
It's supper time.
We'll do it very quickly as possible.
So yes, no, and a quick one-liner.
And a quick one-liner for the lightning round. But I have a couple questions prior to that. I'll let you know when we're in your lightning round section. Yes. So our first question from the public is about health and environment. What is your position on community water fluoridation, and how would you advance the Calgary climate strategy? So we'll start with Mayor Gondek on this one.
So that's a two-part question?
It's one question, it's an and. So it's what is your position on community water fluoridation, and how will you advance the Calgary climate strategy?
I agree with fluoridation, and I agree with addressing climate issues. If you ask anybody that has suffered through hailstorms or floods, they will tell you that we need to take this seriously.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Sharp?
Same question?
Yes, please.
Okay, so with fluorization, I agreed that I would withhold the plebiscite vote in 2021, so I voted with my constituents on that. For climate, I need some more answers from what I'm seeing from administration on a strategy that was proposed in 2021. I have asked to rescind the climate emergency and do an audit of what's been spent. Now saying that, I'm not against obviously what's happening in the world, and I'm not a climate denier. What I'm saying is we need to work within our role and responsibility as a municipality. If that means supports for folks that have hail damage, let's do that. But there's certain things we can't do when it comes to the climate.
Thank you, Councillor Chika.
The fluoride in the water, fluoride is a very toxic substance, but in the levels in the water, it's only been demonstrated to be detrimental to cellular health in a petri dish. But I believe people should be able to consent to that. It's a medical treatment, and I'm not convinced on the science in terms of the quality of the science, but the overall, you can just rinse your mouth out with water after you're done eating. So I'm not convinced that it's necessarily the best strategy, but there is evidence to suggest it's good. But I don't think people, if they don't agree with it, I don't think we should be forced to drink fluoridated water.
What's your thought on the Calgary climate strategy? Any thoughts?
I'm not an expert on the Calgary climate strategy, but I believe that one of the challenges we have here with the climate strategy is that it can be misused to misrepresent the facts. And the biggest challenge that Calgary is facing is the watersheds are changing. So we're going to be running out of water not very soon, but we're going to be running out of water. And if the climate does continue to change, the climate's always changing, Calgary could be an agricultural center, but we have to irrigate. So if you go to my website, mayorgus.ca, you can see we actually have plans to irrigate southern Alberta so you can have food as well, not just water to drink.
Thank you, Jager. Jeremy?
On community water fluoridation, I support upholding the will of Calgarians who voted to reinstate community water fluoridation. On climate action municipally, I want to see more substantive actions and not the blank check climate emergency declarations that this council and mayor have agreed to. For me, it looks like addressing climate so that we can focus on practical steps, things that protect people and save money, better flood protection, more trees, energy.
I'll have to interrupt you, Jeremy, just so we can stick to time. I apologize. Brian, thoughts?
Yes on fluoridation, and I believe in practical solutions on the climate. So the Green Line would remove 26,000 tons of CO2 emissions a year. More tree cover, so the reforestation, preserving wetlands, reducing landfill are real concrete practical solutions that the city could engage in tomorrow as opposed to broad policy declarations.
Thanks, Brian. Jeff?
Yeah, on fluoride, I think we're upholding the act that the plebiscite put in place. The Premier has given people the ability to create a new question, new plebiscites very easily, and so our job is to uphold what people ask us to do. In terms of climate, I think it's about not this large, arbitrary, we have to solve the world's problems. I think it's actually about how do we invest for a cleaner, greener Calgary in things like our parks, pathways, and even transit efficiency to make sure that people get from point A to point B in an efficient manner.
Thank you. We'll call on our first question from the audience.
Good evening, everyone. And good evening, Mayor Gondek and other candidates. Very interesting and excellent debate so far. My name is Ike Peters. I'm the father of Yagazie Ike Peters, one of the two teenagers who drowned at the Mahogany Lake on the 27th of August. I'm very pained. I think the kind of pain I feel right now, I will not wish for my enemy. The recreational lakes are for recreation and for fun, for family, and you'll agree with me, as you're sitting there, your family can actually be at the lake at any time, so you want to feel safe. But I don't think the lakes are safe right now. These waterfronts, I don't think they are safe. I think there's something not right about the waterfronts. And I can tell you my experience as I went there. I'm carrying the pain of my son that I've lost, that I will live for the rest of my life. But what I don't want to live with is another person having to face the same problem that I'm facing today. I think the policymakers need to know this, The waterfronts are not safe today. They are not as safe as you and I can make them be. It won't cost much more. There are simple things we can do to make them safer. So my question, therefore, to you is, what are you going to do to ensure that the signages, I know signages are not enough there. What I just saw there was, it's at your risk. And the next day was business as usual. It's as if people don't care for life anymore. And I don't think that's the kind of city you and I want to live in. So what will you do to make sure that signages, make sure that supervision, make sure that regulations are in place to make our cities safe and safe for our loved ones, for kids, for teenagers, and for everybody? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. Mayor, let's start with you, please.
Sir, let me start by saying that I'm so very sorry. My heart is broken for your family. I appreciated the opportunity to speak with you briefly and share in your grief. Nothing can bring your son back, and that is a terrible, terrible loss. I'm willing to sit down and talk with the parties that operate these lakes and figure out how we can make them safer. I think your advocacy is something that I can get behind, and I'm willing to work with you on that.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, I'm also very sorry to hear about that. I used to be a lifeguard, so I know what it's like having to go in and hoping that child is still breathing to come up, and I can't imagine your pain. And what I think is that we do a really good job with our own facilities, but we actually don't have the experience for open water, and we need to learn from other municipalities that do. And that is one of our biggest mistakes. We're utilizing these way more than we ever have, and we haven't educated ourselves as a city, so we have failed you. I'm sorry, and I will look forward to having those conversations with administration and other parties that are involved.
Thank you, Councillor Jager.
So we have the directors at the city, and these should be, I'm going to call them service coaches. Just personally, we don't have to change their contracts, but as these service coaches, they need to know two things. They need to know the service better than anybody else, and they need to know their customers better than anybody else. Because we're going to plan out things like a school, like programming, we can get input faster and we can deal with things, because we can't have another person die because of poor safety. I don't know the full situation, but we need to know about this sooner. And then we know about it now, and then there's something we can do with everybody in the room. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy?
Thank you. And thank you so much for your vulnerability and sharing what you have. I cannot possibly imagine the loss that you're experiencing, as well as how difficult it was to share this with this audience. So first, a thank you. The first step is greater accountability for homeowners associations as well as other nonprofit and partner organizations that may be on behalf of the City of Calgary operating those facilities. Very much looking forward to your ideas as well as greater advocacy and education in the general public. And if I may, I want to recognize as well my former colleagues, Councillor Davison, Councillor Gondek. You'll recall when we were on council together, our colleague, Councillor Shahal, daylighted this issue as well as spoke to the importance of education around stormwater retention ponds. And I know that council at the time was unanimous in terms of beginning
Jeremy,
those first
I need
steps.
to interrupt you there. I apologize. Thank you. Brian, please.
I'm so sorry for your loss, sir. I do want to share with you that I was door knocking in your neighborhood this week, and your neighbors were deeply impacted by the loss of your son, and they do feel your pain. And I know you feel that people were out the next day, but I can tell you it has had a real impact. I think we need to listen to the experts. I think the fire department requires better water rescue supplies, better signage, and mandated lifeguards. But I would take this as a huge priority, and I'm so sorry for your loss, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Jeff?
Yeah, not much to add here. We only have 30 seconds, but incredibly sorry for your loss. And, you know, the one thing I can say is this definitely highlights why emergency services and response time is a critical piece of city building. And I'm sorry that that didn't serve your family in this case, but it is a commitment that not just are we returning to core services, that we promote and prioritize essential services like emergency.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, candidates. Our next question from the public is on public safety and social issues. So what is your plan for reducing homelessness, particularly in the downtown core? What is the appropriate balance between policing and social services to address these concerns, including concerns about community lake safety and noise bylaws? So we'll start from Jeff this time.
Sure. I think, much as I've said tonight, it requires partnership. It requires all of us to agree that we have the same problem, and all of us are agreeing to work towards a solution, whether that's police, wraparound care and agencies, social services, as well as our federal and provincial counterparts. We are not going to solve the problem around homelessness. We are not going to solve mental health and addiction by simply arresting our way out of it. There's significant reforms that have to happen, because each and every day you see those people, we are failing somebody on the street, and the partnership is key to how we move forward.
Thank you, Jeff Bryant.
First of all, I want to correct an error that Mr. Farkas pointed out before, that it's a choice between policing and safety. Our public safety toolkit, please read it. It's a housing first strategy, 24/7 mental health and addiction supports integrated with the Calgary Police Service and Transit Police. It is both backed by the 30 mental health and addiction agencies, 30 of them that work with vulnerable populations downtown, as well as the Calgary Police Service. They have studied it. They're ready to roll it out. So it is both a policing and a mental health and addiction solution.
Thanks, Brian. Jeremy?
The key part is a housing first strategy that involves trauma-informed care. It involves first responders having appropriate training. It involves being tough on the causes of crime and not just crime itself. And also involves investment through things like a 10-year social sector surge through fully funding family and community support services. It's also in better partnership and collaboration with local organizations like Alpha House, leaning in and investing in initiatives that we know work, things like the help team.
Thank you. Jager?
There's no one solution to homelessness, but obviously it's poverty contributes towards it. And as we look at the future, housing costs will go down, and but we have to continue to push for that. It won't happen on its own. So we have to continue to push for more housing that is that the developers can actually develop faster, okay, and with safety. But this is a big issue, and also we need to make sure that everything we do is culturally acceptable to help promote not learned helplessness, because we don't want to be giving out free, a welfare state. What we need is a place where people can actually find opportunity.
Thank you, Jager. Councillor Sharp?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just going to go back to the roles and responsibilities of all workers of government. The city has the land, the province has the funding, and then our partners have the experience. So if we want to do this right, we all have to work together, and that is working with the drop-in center, with the Alpha House, with Simon House. We just need to know our roles and responsibilities so that we can do this properly. And this is not going to happen overnight. And we know that we need to make sure that all orders of government, because the feds can also help. If we're all treading in the same direction, this will happen. Over the years, it's been broken relationships.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor Gondek?
Addressing housing really begins with building housing, and that's what we've been doing, both affordable housing and market housing. It also includes providing supports to people who may need support with mental health or addiction or recovery, and that is working hand in hand with the province to make sure those services are strong. And it's also making sure that when you see people in situations of crisis, the right team is going out to meet them at that point and get them the help they need. And that's why the work we've done around integrating police and peace officers and outreach workers has been so important.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll go to the public, to the audience here for a question.
Hello, thank you very much. My name's Ian. I came out here looking for an alternative to the current mayor, and what I think I've realized is that you're all just like Gondek 2.0s, except for you, Jaeger. You're just out of your mind. So my question for you guys is, and it's a controversial one, but it's, do you ever think it's okay to mandate masks? Thank you very much.
Just a quick note to everyone else. Let's maintain order and respect for them, please. Okay. We'll go with Jeff, please. Can you start up this round?
I think understanding the city's role is that our job is to pay the police, pick up the garbage, and pave the roads. Our job is not healthcare. And so as we move forward, we've learned a lot from COVID. I can tell you I've spent 4 years working in a hospital every day. We have a much different understanding, and we have the benefit of that understanding on the other side of this thing. I think we will take all of those learnings forward, but primarily this will be healthcare is a provincial health matter.
I guess I would just say that, yes, the province does have both the ability and responsibility to mandate masks as part of their healthcare prerogative, which has been tested at the courts. So I guess I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Brian. Jeremy?
Thank you. At present, municipalities don't have the legal authority as set out by the provincial government in order to mandate those decisions. I'm personally encouraging of those to make the decisions for themselves that are appropriate for their own circumstances, including masking, including vaccination.
Thank you, Jeremy. Jager?
Well, masks are a very important thing if you want to prevent droplets from spreading, but more importantly, people need to wash their hands. I believe that every municipal building, you should walk in and you should wash your hands. The mayor should walk in every day and wash their hands in front of everybody with soap and with water. I don't know why we don't have it. When you go to the food court, they should have a beautiful hand washing station right in the middle. Hand washing needs to be a part of our public mandate, and I don't see it, and it will reduce sick days. You know, people get headaches, it's probably because they got a virus. Hand washing needs to be a part of our culture once again. And masks, we got to moderate, we got to be careful.
Thank you, Jager. Councillor Sharp?
Thank you for that. I did not ever mandate masks. I wasn't on that council, and I was, I watched that intensely because they had to go through that during COVID. The province intervened when they were supposed to. So unfortunately, they made council make that decision, and it wasn't their decision to make. So the province stepped up, did their job, and now we can't actually mandate that based on a new rule in the MGA.
Thank you, Councillor Mayor.
We don't have the ability to mandate masks.
Thank you. Another question from the public is on community resistance versus housing need. It speaks to leadership, equity, and consensus building. So this question highlights the divide between vocal neighborhood groups and citywide housing needs, which is a major driver of Calgary's stalled housing initiatives. It digs into leadership's ability to navigate NIMBYism, build consensus, and advance equity, which is a skill residents will want to evaluate in a mayor. The question here is, how can elected officials like yourselves address the divide between well-organized and vocal neighborhood opposition groups and the broader need to address the housing crisis across Calgary? Mayor, we'll start with you this time.
I think it's important to recognize that when you have a public hearing process, it doesn't mean that everyone has been able to come out and express their view. There are people that simply do not have that opportunity. And we spent 12 days in a public hearing listening to almost 700 people. It's responsible to listen to the public and make your decision based on the evidence as well as hearing what their concerns are.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Sharp?
Yeah, I would say that sometimes communities come out to speak against maybe some of the affordable housing because they feel like they're losing something in the community that they're not getting replaced, like a green space or a park. We need to do better to replace things like that. And so I think over the years, we've only had one or two things that came that were contentious to communities that maybe didn't pass unanimously. But I do believe this council has passed a lot of affordable housing projects unanimously because we know the need for the housing is there.
Thank you, Councillor Jager.
The job of the mayor is to take care of the council better than anybody else. And if you're having to come and really let them know what you want, if you have to be a Larry Heather, who I don't know if he's here tonight, but that shouldn't be happening. The councillors should be bringing those issues directly to the meetings, and we're going to use AI. And again, we're going to be meeting way more than the council's meeting, twice a week, and we have topics to look at all areas of the city every single month, and we're going to look through them in depth, and then people can voice their opinions online, and I'm going to be looking at it personally using AI.
Thank you, Jager. Jeremy?
Thank you. And as a director for the Calgary Housing Company for 4 years, I worked very closely with local communities to get needed housing built. Because that's the key thing, is we need to continue to build, but it can be done in a way that listens to the community. Right now, we're seeing two entrenched factions on this council where one suggests that we ignore the community to build, and the other suggests that we can't build anything in order to listen to the community. So I think we need to both listen and build and recognize that we are in a housing crisis. The average income can no longer afford the average rent, which is why we need to build while listening to the community to do so.
Thank you, Jeremy. Brian?
Yeah, I think this is absolutely a solvable issue. We have suggested that we refer the zoning question to the Housing Committee, that the Housing Committee listen to Calgarians' concerns, very valid concerns about the character of their neighborhoods, and that we preserve the ability to streamline the building process. And we can absolutely do those things. This does not need to divide us. Issues of housing, everyone recognizes that we need a dramatic increase in housing supply, and everyone agrees ways that community's character needs to be preserved. And if we start from there, we can have a good discussion and solve the issue.
Thank you, Brian. Jeff?
Yeah, the key is listening to communities and what they want for their community. When it comes down to building affordable housing, there's many examples we can point to across the city where affordable housing shouldn't look or feel like affordable housing. It should fit like it fits into the character of the neighborhood. When you walk past it, if you don't notice it sticking out. And there's many examples where we have done that. That's how you build community, and that's how you bring community along with the decisions on how we develop.
Thank you, Jeff. We'll come to the audience.
Hello? Oh. Hi, my name is Sarah Elder. I am also running to be a candidate for mayor, but unfortunately I wasn't able to participate in the forum tonight. So I've been given the opportunity to say something and then ask a question of the candidates. So I would hope you consider how few people on this stage actually answered the questions that they were asked. I would respectfully suggest that I believe we deserve better. Not just in having candidates that answer the questions they were asked, but answer them without giving answers that are so long you can't remember what the question actually was. You deserve better. I think we all deserve better than most of what was offered up here tonight, and I think I can do that for you as someone who hasn't previously served on council or run for mayor. To my question to the candidates on the stage. I'm a small business owner, and I can see the small businesses in our city struggling, specifically in Marteloup and Bridgeland. I understand their concerns deeply, on top of the economic challenges that we're all currently facing in this climate, making a small business, operating a small business right now almost impossible. To each of you, what is the last local small business you supported in Marteloup or Bridgeland?
Jeff, if we can start with you.
Pretty sure I went for a beer at Original Joe's.
Okay, well, Brian?
Oh, I bought cookies at Bridgeland Market last week and a coffee at Luke's in Bridgeland.
Okay, Jeremy? It's a quick one.
Thanks. I went for coffee at Luke's.
Jigger?
Last time we went to Village Ice Cream there, but it doesn't matter about the community as the commercial property tax is way too high. We run two businesses, one a not-for-profit and one our clinic, and we can't afford to keep the doors open if this continues. We have to have lower tax and better quality services.
Thank you, Jigger. Councillor Sharp?
Blue Star Diner. It's the best.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor?
Luke's Drug Mart.
Awesome.
I
Okay.
actually thought you said Marteloup.
Oh, she said
She says Marteloup or Bridgeland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whew, everybody answered Bridgeland. I was like, wow, am I own over here? What happened?
Well, thank you, candidates. I'll come back to the questions from the public. So this question is on transportation and infrastructure. I'll skip over that just because Kenny asked that already. So I'll go to city governance and fiscal responsibility. So how will you work with the provincial government to ensure effective collaboration and not conflict? Well, let's focus on this Part B question, which is about what is your strategy for containing residential property tax increases, reducing red tape for businesses, and increasing efficiency with city services? So we'll start with Jeremy this time.
Thanks. It's a very broad question, but if you go to my website, www.jeremy.ca/platform, you'll see detailed plans on that. Specifically to infrastructure, I think this is one of the key areas where we can reduce rates and ongoing costs. At present, about a quarter of Calgary's water is lost in our water pipes due to the aging nature of our infrastructure. Actually investing in fixing our infrastructure, maintaining what we have, could benefit Calgarians to the tune of potentially reducing our water rates by about a quarter. We have a lot more specific ideas on our website, though, in terms of financial responsibility.
Thank you, Jeremy. Brian?
I'll refer you to the Calgary Party's water utility that's promoted on our website that would address that issue on water loss. Our public safety toolkit, our housing toolkit. We have a plan for reducing red tape for businesses, which is outlined on our website as well, which addresses a concierge service for small businesses, a dashboard when construction is going on in the neighborhoods, and streamlining the approval process for small businesses. And I don't think I can possibly hit them all.
Awesome. Thanks, Brian. Jeff?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes, sure.
Thanks.
The question is, what is your strategy for containing residential property tax increases, reducing red tape from businesses, and increasing efficiency in city services?
It's really about making Calgary more competitive, and so we've said we'll freeze property taxes for 4 years. I know lots of people think that's not discernible from magic. It's absolutely possible. We're talking about freezing the municipal portion of the property tax, growing our tax base, looking at how we manage our reserves differently, looking at how we manage risk differently. All of these things come together for a better plan that puts more money back into the pockets of people. As I've said before, you can't continue to cry affordability crisis and then charge people more money.
Thank you. Jager?
Yes, I have a really, really important strategy for this. It's just inputs and outputs. It's a simple system. So the first input is obviously the people that are doing the work. Then we have to look at what they're thinking and how they're working and the policies they're working on. And we have to look at what they're actually doing. Right, so we need to make sure we have the right people in the right spot. We have to then make sure that they have the right values and the right orientation. And then after that, we can ensure that they're doing the right things to have less taxes and better quality services.
Thank you, Jager. Councillor Sharp?
Yeah, thank you very much. You can find efficiencies across the corporation, which some of my colleagues and I have done over the last 4 years, about 170 million, and it wouldn't affect one core service. So it's also redistributing that money into police, fire, transit safety, and those things you need every day. The other thing about business supports is we do have a triage system already through the business and local economy team, and it just needs to get a little bit more refined. Changing needs of businesses are changing every day, and better relationship with the provincial government is key for all of that.
Thank you, Councillor. Mayor?
If you strengthen the tax base by making sure that downtown properties are strong, by making sure that we're doing conversion programs like we're doing, if you strengthen the tax base by doing more industrial and manufacturing and create an inland port, it's a better revenue stream for us. We need to make sure that we are maintaining, monitoring, and upgrading our infrastructure at every turn. And we need to make sure that internally we are understanding where departments can be better aligned and reduce duplication of administration.
Awesome. Thanks, Mayor. We'll come to the audience here for the last 2 questions in this round.
Georgina, my question is regarding the lack of reliability with Calgary Transit. As any Calgarian that relies on transit knows, every winter there's maybe a 50% chance at best your bus is actually going to make it up that hill to get where you need to go. There was a winter tire program that was studied but unfortunately abandoned by City Council. Is that something you'd be willing to implement, to put back winter tires back on Calgary buses?
Jager, if we can start with you on this round.
Well, actually, my grandfather, once he was driving one of the buses back to the service station, back to Victoria Park, and he slid down Centre Street all the way to the Calgary Tower. And I can tell you that the buses have to have the best tires. So this is something that's important to you. So we should look into this, because I know a lot of the bus drivers. I take care of them; they get injured, and we can definitely look at getting better tires. I don't see why not. It might not even be more expensive. We may even save money.
Thank you, Jager. Councillor Sharp? Yes.
Yeah, definitely something to look at. I didn't know that council put a ban on that or changed that, but I will definitely look at. The other thing is, sorry, I'm not feeling really well tonight. The other thing is frequency of bus service is really critical. I know that I lost some bus routes in Ward 1 over last year, and my constituents are suffering waiting outside for the next bus. So we do need to look at more frequency. People are moving, and it's something we should evolve ourselves in looking at all the time. So, but the tires, definitely something to look at. Thank you.
Mia, please.
When it comes to frequency, we need to be looking at places where either people are standing at a bus stop and buses are passing them by, or the places where the service just isn't up to par. Absolutely, frequency is important. With the tire issue, if I remember correctly, it just wasn't working, the type of tires that we had purchased. So, for transit operator safety and for passenger safety, it's absolutely something we need to look at in winter conditions.
Thank you, Mayor. Jeremy?
Thank you. And I actually raised that on the previous council, and I would be very, very happy to revisit this as mayor as well. It's also about the quality and the value proposition of transit. We need to make sure that the tools and say, for example, if we have an app, the information that's being fed into the app is actually accurate so that the people who are using transit can bank on that. And it's also, there's other pieces around just making sure that we're appropriately snow clearing a lot of the facilities around there. I speak to a lot of folks who one of their biggest barrier to taking the bus is actually snow clearing.
Thank you, Jeremy. Brian?
Yes, on the tires, and please look at our transit toolkit. We have put in policy for more increased max rapid bus transit, increased frequency and reliability funding, as well as safety at transit stops and safety for transit drivers, increase of the Alpha House help teams with transit police, and lighting and clearing of transit stops.
Thank you, Brian. Sheriff.
I think of Calgary as 9 months of hockey and 3 months of bad ice, which means we have to do better in terms of our overall road maintenance. And so whether we do need winter tires or not, I think that's something to explore. It's something to look at with our roads crews and transit operators. But at the end of the day, we need to do a better job of just allowing people to get from point A to point B in our city, knowing that from time to time we do have significant snow accumulation on the roads.
Thank you, Jeff. Our last question from the audience.
Okay. My question is, I used to work with a men's group in my community, and I'm glad to hear some of the people who worked on the police commission. Some of these men, they come from bad decisions from residential school. I'm one of them. I see my counselor tomorrow. And it was me working with the men that I realized that what happened to me at 9, 10 years old, I hid for all these times. So I've been in counseling for about 6, 7 years. But my question is, the population inside of the criminal justice is about 85 to 90% Indigenous people. And a lot of times we walk right by them down the street here. We'll go across the street so we don't meet them eye to eye. And it's because of safety too. But these people belong. Their ancestors were here way before anybody in this building. And then the other thing is dignity, eh? We have to keep the dignity of these people, eh? Because that's somebody's brother, that's somebody's son, that's somebody's husband. We can go on and on. But these people need to get back into society, and because when I was talking to them, and I have to write a letter that maybe the judge didn't even read or not, but I put a lot of energy into it. And these people, the police, the social worker, the psychologist, the Crown, all of them are against him. And they're putting restraining orders on them. And I bring in the elder, and the elder says, you have to get back together.
I apologize, Elder. Can you ask the question, please?
So the question is, what are your thoughts, your innovative ideas to help these people on the street?
Thank you. We'll apply the same format as last time, so we'll start with Jaeger as well.
I have 3 Indigenous siblings who all have special needs, and the most important thing is them learning self-resilience, these skills of self-resilience, how to learn, and education got us into this mess, and education can get us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that. I think what's important is when there's a situation, had it be an elder come with the police to help the individual understand so they're not scared. This is what's happening. We're just assuming that we can go in and have these conversations with people when they need the support of their community, and you have my commitment for that. And you made a comment about dignity. My biggest thing about people and humanity in general and every person in the city is you come in this world with dignity and you need to leave with dignity. And my job as mayor is to make sure that in between time, you have it.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Mayor?
I think it's really important to ensure that we are Indigenous-led in this exercise, that we are listening to people like you, we are understanding the experiences that you have had, and we figure out ways to integrate you within those outreach teams, within community courts, and within all the supportive services. Places like Fresh Start and Simon House have done a wonderful job of making sure their recovery is Indigenous-led in many cases. We are doing Indigenous-led housing. We need to learn from those models and do exactly what you said.
Thank you, Mayor Gondek. Jeremy?
Thank you, and I think Mayor Gondek's point is really critical, and this needs to be Indigenous-led. It needs to be those with the lived experience who can advise us. as mayor and council to be able to advocate for the changes potentially provincially or federally to be able to address the overrepresentation of Indigenous populations in incarceration. I think it also means actual capital and operating funding for Indigenous-led healing projects, education, but most of all, it starts with recognizing first the validity of your lived experience to be able to guide that.
Thank you, Jeremy. Brian, please.
Yeah, I would say, first of all, restorative justice, which is the term that we use now, is really Indigenous justice. And to me, that highlights that we have a lot to learn from our Indigenous neighbors. And I can tell you, when I was on the commission and we invited Sutina's commission to join us and their councillors, and then they invited us to their powwow, we learned as much from that community as they did from us. And so I think it starts with reaching out, listening to our neighbors, and we have a lot to learn from the Indigenous community about restorative justice.
Thank you, Brian. Jeff?
Yeah, actually, some great ideas up here. I think the one thing I would lean into a little further is the idea of peer support programs. We know in healthcare, providing access to individuals who have that lived experience, whatever that might be, provide better outcomes for the folks going through it at the same time. And so the ability for us to fund and leverage these peer support programs is a game changer when it comes to outcomes and dignity-driven solutions.
Thank you, candidates. Due to time, we will forfeit the lightning round, but I'll turn it over to JS to wrap us up. Thank you.
Holy cow, this is a very long event. These chairs are made of very hard plastic.
It's still easier asking the questions than answering them. Yeah.
I don't know. Is this on?
Yeah.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, good.
Is it on?
No, we can hear you, but no.
Hi. All right. This is the closing statements. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to deliver a closing statement. The order has been predetermined by draw, and our first candidate up with their 2-minute closing statement is Jeff Davison.
Oh, well, thank you. Are we doing them from here? Are we going to the podium? No, I don't think we need the podium. I would just, maybe I'll stand, though we have been sitting for quite some time. First of all, thank you everybody for being here. I know we're all interested in one thing, and that's how we move Calgary forward. You've heard a lot tonight about talk around public safety and affordability and infrastructure and what all those plans are going to look like. But to me, this election comes down to something different. It comes down to leadership. It comes down to experience. And it comes down to vision. Who's going to move our city forward? And that's the critical thing you have to ask yourself in this next election. We've got a lot of challenges, and you've heard me say this here tonight a few times. Calgary's the best city in the world. Can we be better? Absolutely. But we've got a lot of things going for us, and we need to lean into those things. But to get there, it's going to take a leader who understands Calgarians, who understands that being on the inside of City Council is part of the key to how we move our city forward. It's somebody who has the experience across multiple sectors like myself, 25 years in energy technology, film, now healthcare. All of these things are going to matter when it comes to solutioning some of our big problems. And then it's simple. Who has a vision for our city? And our vision is very simple. Build a safe, affordable place of opportunity for everyone. At the end of the day, this campaign is about one thing. It's about you. And it's about letting you succeed. And the benefit is you get to decide what success is. But that's our job here at the city. Allow you to get through your life, allow you to have the supports around you, and lead and succeed in a place that I think is just simply home to all of us. And so if you're interested in joining a team that wants to put success first and put Calgarians out there, JeffDavisonYYC.com, please join us, because this is a movement. We want to make some change happen, but let's lean into the idea that this is the greatest place on earth and the best is yet to come. Thank you.
I think everybody just knows the order, so I'm not gonna introduce everybody. Next.
So I've spent 30 years leading organizations and building teams, and that's what attracted me to this job. I like difficult problems. I like to go into organizations, collaborate with colleagues, and build strong teams that fix dysfunction. So with my clients, I am often brought in as a labor employment lawyer when they have their most difficult bet the farm issues. And I sit down with them and I facilitate policies to get them out of that dysfunction. I advise boards of directors of Fortune 500 companies, cities across this province on exactly that thing. So my clients say to me, you are exactly the kind of person that we need at City Hall. I believe in servant leadership. I believe that you go into an organization like City Hall with the idea that you can move the ball forward, that you can improve things, that we can make City Hall boring again. And what I mean by that is we're going to work really hard to do all the jobs like fixing potholes, water mains, and the critical jobs that someone else down the road will do the ribbon cutting for. And I'm really happy with that. I'm happy to be someone who comes in, lays the foundation for Calgary to go from the place it is. And I truly believe that Calgary deserves to be voted the best city in Canada. But I think we can be the very best in the world. And if we do our job, and I build the teams that I've always built, as I did with the Calgary Party, with 14 individuals that work together, that reinforce each other's strengths, we can really take this city to the next level. And I'm very excited for the opportunity to serve you. And I hope that you'll consider voting for me on October 20th.
Thanks, Jess, and thank you, Calgary. I just wanted to close off on what I love most about our city, and it's the fact that you are Calgarian the moment that you arrive. You can't say that about every city, but you can say that about here, and you can say that about us. My father experienced that, arriving here as a refugee, not just to build a new life, but to help build up the city. That's what I experienced growing up in East Calgary, having the entire world on my front door. Because you see, my neighbors came from every single corner of this world to be able to bring their talents, their hopes, and their dreams. And it made us stronger. Strong enough to be able to work hard, build something for our family, and strong enough to show up and help our neighbors. Calgary is at a crossroads. We have a decision to make when it comes to this next election. We need a mayor who is ready, who is prepared, and willing to set the right priorities to work for the Calgarians that we are supposed to. Every Calgarian has shown me, whether it's through my time as a community volunteer, as a CEO, as a kid who just grew up in Dover, that all of us want the same things for our city. We all have the same hopes. Safe streets for our kids, housing that we can afford that's within reach, jobs we can count on. And we all want a city with leadership who's willing to work together to be able to get things done. One of us on the stage will be the mayor who welcomes the 2 millionth Calgarian. But much more than a number, they're going to be a neighbor, bringing with them a new story for our city. And this is really what this election is about. We have a choice to make, to elect a mayor who's ready for the future, focused on the right priorities for Calgarians. My name is Jeremy Farkas, and I'm ready to be your next mayor, ready to work hard to build a Calgary that's safe and affordable for all of you, for all of us, and for all of those who are here to come.
Thank you. I think last time you guys didn't stand up, so we should stand up. The same force that got this flower to bloom brought us here together today. I don't know what it is or why it is, but it did. And I could tell you, I'd love to listen to you. I learned more today about the tires. I learned today more about what you're experiencing in our city, what your hopes and what your dreams are. And I'd love to connect with you afterwards, and I'd love to tell you a little bit about the wild horses in Alberta. I'd like to tell you what's happening to them, the truth behind them, how horses help our ecosystems, and it is through the story of the horse, the wild horse, the resilient wild horse. That's the stallion or the mare or the foal. How we learn to be better individuals and how we can be strong, but we are stronger together as family. And I'd love to tell you that story. I have a poster at the back about Sterling and Rose. I got to meet these great individuals, and I like to speak for those who don't always have a voice. So I'd love to meet you afterwards and talk to you. Our website, it's the best website I can tell you because I did it myself. And if you find a spelling error, let me know. mayorgus.ca. Okay, that's mayorgus.ca, and we can learn to vote together on there. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. Feels weird to stand up now. Thank you for hosting us. And I'm Sonia Sharp. I'm running to be your next mayor. And everyone up here talks about a vision or a platform. I talk about a to-do list. And this is a to-do list I've captured over the last 4 years and at the doors right now, and that's repealing blanket rezoning. It's making the city more affordable, and it's talking about safety. Safety is actually one of the number one things that people talk to me about every day. That's implementing the 500 new police officers and getting us where we need to be, implementing that 24-hour 7-day-a-week police station downtown. It's rebuilding our relationship with the provincial government. It is looking for efficiencies in our taxes to spend money on things that matter to core services. And so it's a fix-it-first mentality when it comes to infrastructure. And I share that to-do list with 9 other colleagues and members of council right now in Communities First. They've turned to me and said, we want you to be our next mayor. We want to endorse you. And my job as mayor is to build consensus and bring things forward. I have a track record of getting things done. Like I said, many contentious issues that actually passed unanimously. The one thing is when I talk about not having a personal ideological agenda, I don't. I'm here for you. I have 16 years as a business owner, and I have 20 years as institutional knowledge of what happens inside City Hall. Nobody here on this stage has that. With the other 4 years I have on council, I would say that I am probably your most trusted candidate to become your mayor. So if you're interested in, supporting my team, please go to sharpformayor.ca, and I would be happy to make sure that you are part of this team and Communities First and to lead this city in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Ethnic Festivals Association for hosting us and having this democratic process. Thank you to my fellow candidates who are here. Thank you to the organizers, and thank you everyone in the audience for being here. I think we've been through a lot in the last 4 years. We have worked our way out of a global pandemic. We have seen economic shocks that we couldn't have predicted, things like tariffs. We went through a major water main crisis together. And in spite of all that, we stood strong together because that's what Calgarians do. And because of that, we are seeing 250 people moving to our city every single day because they know what we know. We are attracting investment. We are creating jobs, we are building housing, and we are providing opportunity. This city says very clearly, if you come here, we believe in your success and we will share prosperity with you. But none of that happens by accident. It happens because you have purposeful leadership, and that's what I've demonstrated over the last 4 years. I've kept calm, I've kept a steady hand, and I've made sure that we have received every opportunity that comes our way. And moving forward, I want to make sure that we are protecting what matters and building what's possible. Let's take care of our infrastructure and keep investing in things that matter, like our roads, like our water systems. And let's make sure we're building what's possible in addition to the housing that we are building. Let's build that inland port, and let's show the world what it means to be a leader in trade. These are things we can all do together. The work's not over yet. My work's not done. Our work is not done. Let's make sure we are building the city that belongs to all of us and shows the world how inclusive and welcoming we are. On October 20th, I'm seeking your support. jyotigondak.ca is where you can get more information. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, candidate, for taking the time to be here tonight. We appreciate you, and thank you so much for this. And then also, I want to appreciate every individual who stayed and who've come here for this debate. Thank you so much. And also, I want to thank our volunteers. We've got a lot of volunteers who have worked with us today, starting with Tosin Salako, who is a member of our board over there, Baba Fumini Adediji, we have Alabi Adenekon and Eva Boka, and Selma Pare at the registration. We have Adele Kalade Koba, behind those cameras, and then Logan from Bevan Media, and Dolapo Familusi, and also Andrew Dupis. Thank you so much for your time. And I also want to thank Elder Treffry. Thank you very much for coming, and our moderators, JS and Dr. Chika. Thank you very much. I want to say thanks to all of individual organizations who have sponsored us. You can look on the screen. We've got our principal sponsor, Calgary Foundation. A round of applause for them, for this support. And all the organizations who have supported us, Calgary Black Chamber, Immigrant Champions of Canada, Immigrant Council for Arts Innovation, WTL Canada, GL13 Concept, Loader Homes, Treasury Market, Mercedes Speaks to Me, National Access Center, motif photography, and we do creative. Thank you so much for that. And I will just also on the screen, can we have the next slide, please, quickly? So the work we're doing, basically, we are a nonprofit art and culture organization, but we believe it's our civic responsibility, not just as an organization, but every individual to get involved in this. Because number one, we are all being informed now, and with this information, we can make the right decision for whom to vote. And that is one of the things we're doing in our organization. And if you want to support us, that is how you can support our organization. Thank you very much. The next slide, please. And also, like I said, we are a nonprofit art organization. This month is this month is the month of the artist, and also City of Calgary and our province Culture Day celebration. We have an amazing individual, who's been in the movie industry for over 30 years with amazing experience, who's worked across the globe. We're privileged to be hosting him right in this same hall on the 27th of February. It will be at the National Music Center on the 25th, University of Calgary as well, and also premiering this new film. On the way out, flyers will be shared with you. And before we go, advance voting starts October 6 to 11. Election day is October 20th, and more information is on Elections Calgary. Thank you very much once again for tonight. Do have a wonderful evening. Thank you. Let's take pictures with all the candidates. Please, I want to take pictures with you. Adeleke, please, can you get a camera? Let's take pictures with the moderators and our board.